Chapter 550. A man stepped down from the flying light. He was dressed in yellow clothes. Ding Tong's voice rang in Yi Zaiwen's ears. She had transmitted her voice to Yi Zaiwen's brain using a secret sound transmission technique. He is Yurui. He's the core disciple of the famous Seven Luminaries Divine School, which is located in the River Shore Star Field. Yi Shiwen recalled that there was a school of this name in the River Shore Star Field. It was more powerful than the dominating Heaven Dojo, but it couldn't be compared with a giant force like the true Martial University. However, it was still a dominant party in the River Shore Star Field. This man's cultivation was as good as Gu Tian's. In fact, it seemed a bit more powerful than his. Yi Shiwen could feel a suppressive force impacting his heart, even though this man stood far away. The man carried an arrogant expression on his face. It seemed as if he was disdainfully overlooking the world. Another man arrived immediately after him. He was short in stature and had prominent features. He looked unusually ugly. However, he was dressed in magnificent snow-white clothes. It seemed as if he was pretending to be an elegant young master, as if a monkey had worn a crown. He looked ridiculous. Moreover, Yi Shiwen noticed that his legs looked weird. That man had concealed his legs well. However, Yi Shiwen had noticed them at a glance. However, Yi Shiwen didn't dare to underestimate him, since his vigor and spirit were far more tyrannical than that of the yellow-clothed man. Moreover, his fundamental aura was randomly surging around. This man had already reached the peak of the Sage Great Perfection realm, and was only one step away from entering Sage Accomplished realm. Then, he would become a formidable person who would stand at the top of the Sage realm. He also had a blazing and ominous look in his eyes. This is Gong Yinjia. He's a major disciple of the Hidden Fantasy sect. It is a major sect in another star field. He's the strongest among the four of us. However, his temperament is very violent, and he hates it when people talk about his looks or call him a cripple. You must also be careful about this. Ding Tong's voice reverberated in Yi Zaiwen's mind. Two men and a woman arrived immediately after them. One of those two men was dressed in a black robe, while the other wore a white robe. Both of them looked skinny and had wretched facial features. Their appearance was very similar. It was obvious that they were twins. That woman was dressed in a black dress. She had a very cold bearing. It seemed as if she was emitting a chill from her body in order to keep everyone 1,000 miles away from her. She appeared to be indifferent towards everyone. Brother Gongyin, how come you're so slow? My junior sister and I have been waiting for you for so long. The red-clothed woman Xiao Yuan delicately smiled and said. She herself had only recently arrived. However, it didn't appear so from her words. Would you not introduce these three people to us? Fufufo, such a beautiful girl. We, the cultivators of yin and yang, had been looking for such a fine human cauldron for a long time, but we couldn't find any. The white-robed old man among those twins let out an evil laughter as he said. He looked at Xiao Yuan with an avaricious expression in his eyes. It seemed as if he wanted to swallow her whole. Tee. Indeed, elder brother. The black-robed old man also laughed sinisterly. What do you say, young girl? Marry my elder brother, and I can assure you that you will have the taste of being on the seventh heaven. Your cultivation will also advance by leaps and bounds. Sage Accomplished realm will only be a matter of time for you. These two old men had started to unscrupulously harass Xiao Yuan immediately after they had arrived. Yi Shiwen had an incredible insight. So, he had seen through these two old men. They're probably walking on the path of dual cultivation. However, the evil energy soaring on their bodies makes it evident that they aren't walking on the correct path. Dual cultivation wasn't some depraved way. Instead, it was an upright and straightforward path of displaying one's strength and discipline. The legend of the Yellow Emperor, who had become an immortal overnight by having sex with 100 females, had been passed down for generations. The Taoist teaching also had a proper path of dual cultivation, and Buddhism had the so-called joyous way of meditation. So, it could clearly be seen that the path of dual cultivation wasn't some corrupt method. The monks paid particular attention to land, companion, principle, and wealth. Among these, The word companion referred to both mates and friends in one's life. So it also contains the idea of dual cultivation within. However, every cultivator of dual cultivation path wasn't decent and righteous. There were many corrupt cultivators as well. Their dishonest ways would improve upon using this cultivation method. It also helped them in getting faster results. On the other hand, the honest and straightforward path of dual cultivation was all about long-term approach. Moreover, both the parties involved could benefit from it. On the contrary, the evil way of dual cultivation was often predatory in nature. One party would be withered to death after their primary essence had been entirely plundered by another party. These two men were clearly the dual cultivators of the evil way. In fact, one could tell that they weren't good people just by looking at them. Yishuan carefully looked at Xiao Yuan once again. He found that she was an owner of the so-called inborn charming bone. This kind of constitution wasn't commonly seen in humans. This physique was very suitable for walking on the path of dual cultivation. One would make a rapid progress, no matter whether they followed the correct way of cultivation or the evil way of cultivation. This method was outstanding. It was no wonder that these two old men were this interested in Xiao Yuan. After all, the rapid progress of their evil cultivation would no longer be a fantasy if they could use her as a human cauldron. However, Xiao Yuan wasn't aware of their ulterior motives. She only thought that they were old perverts. So, she looked at them in a very disgusted way. Fu asterisk K off. You old motherfu asterisk curs. Xiao Yuan became furious. She took a valiant stance and didn't show even a trace of weakness. It will be better if the both of you behave yourself. Otherwise, I won't mind killing a few people in advance. Gu Tian stepped out and warned those two old men. He was the helper whom Xiao Yuan had brought along. He was a discerning person who could easily see their intentions for Xiao Yuan. And he couldn't let those old men do whatever they wanted. Kill us? Fu. Pretty boy, you're very courageous. The white-robed old man stared maliciously at Gu Tian and said, "A bunch of ugly freaks." Gu Tian retorted disdainfully. His voice hadn't faded when a shrill sound of breaking of space was heard. A figure suddenly arrived in front of him and threw a kick at him. Bang! The kick carried the impact of the end of the world. It formed a huge picture of the end of the world and swept towards Gu Tian to shroud him. The air in the entire surrounding area froze. It was a scary sight. However, Gu Tian's reaction wasn't slow either. His cultivation of Sage Great Perfection Realm wasn't just for show. He shouted loudly, and his hands crisscrossed in order to resist the attack. Bang! The entire space sunk by that kick which had come straight from the end of the world. A sound of crunch was heard immediately afterwards. Gu Tian let out a stuffed groan and got blown away. He then spouted a mouthful of blood. His hands softly hung down since they had been mangled by that kick. Everyone couldn't help but hold their breaths. They were stunned as they saw the scene before their eyes. All of them were proud and arrogant experts. However, they became scared as soon as they saw this scene. Gu Tian's strength wasn't lacking. He was a top expert of the Sage Great Perfection Realm. However, both of his hands had been broken by a single kick. The tyrannical strength of this kick had made them scared. At this time, that figure finally emerged. It turned out to be Gong Yinjia. His expression looked ice-cold as he looked at Gu Tian with his gloomy and cold eyes. Then he tightly pursed up his lips and said, "Pretty boy, I will trample you to death if you make such irresponsible remarks next time." His voice sounded husky. Everyone was startled because of what had happened just now. It seemed as if a wild demon had crawled out of hell. Gu Tian's face flushed with embarrassment. He forcibly suppressed the injuries to his body and stood up. His vision had turned gloomy and cold. He had never come across such a difficult situation. He had always been considered a Heaven's Pride expert. He had been treated as a treasure worth protecting. He had never been kicked by someone so pathetically. Crunch! Crunch! Gu Tian's broken hands suddenly recovered under his treatment. However, his complexion had turned ashen. He had realized that this man before his eyes wasn't an easy person to deal with. He looked lame. However, he was an exceptionally ominous person. Yi Shiwen had finally understood what Ding Tong had meant by violent temperament after Gu Tian had called Gong Yin Jia an ugly freak. All individuals in this team were handsome men and beautiful women. Yi Shiwen wasn't exceptionally handsome. However, he was far from ugly. Only Gong Yin Jia and those two old men behind him could be considered ugly. However, Gong Yin Jia's reaction was far too violent. Apparently, he cared very much about his physical defect. In layman's language, the more a person cares about something, the less they have of it. The more a person cares about his appearance, the uglier they look. So, one must keep on experimenting with their looks. Also, a person tends to spend less of their money if they care too much about it. Yi Shiwen. Each of these people are cruel and rebellious. Each of them is more arrogant and despotic than the other. They are a group of scoundrels. All of them have evil intentions. Are you sure you want to collaborate with these people? Yimo's voice reverberated in Yi Ziwen's mind. Yi Shiwen smiled and replied, I wouldn't mind working with a group of devils as long as they provided me enough assistance. Anyhow, these people are only a little cruel and untamed. That's all. Who doesn't want to look domineering nowadays? Xiao Yuan was also looking at Gong Yin Jia with an ugly expression on her face. The graceful expression had vanished from her face. She was the one who had found Gu Tian. So, she had obviously lost her reputation. She might appear as a frivolous woman with no real depth in her character. However, she obviously had self-respect and pride since she was an expert of the sage great perfection realm. Fu. I told you this pretty boy is useless. However, you can still throw yourself into this old man's arms. I assure you that I will take you to the seventh heaven. The white-robed old man laughed and said. There was a sinister expression on his face. Xiao Yuan's complexion turned ugly. However, she ignored the two wretched old men. Next, I want to make a declaration. Gong Yin Jia swept his ice-cold vision across everyone and said in his usual husky voice, I shall be leading this group. All of you must listen and obey my commands. Who approves? Who opposes? Everyone was taken aback. They obviously hadn't expected this. The original members of the team, like Yu Rui and Ding Tong, were also shocked. To be continued. Chapter 551. Who approves and who opposes? Everyone was taken aback. They hadn't thought that Gong Yin Jia would declare his intention to lead them. Everyone was left dumbstruck. Is he insane? He is indeed very strong. However, other people in the team are also the experts of Sage Great Perfection Realm. But he wants to control everyone. Is he insane or what? You're insane, you cripple. Nobody had said anything until now. Gu Tian was the first one to respond. He and Gong Yin Jia had already become enemies. So, he didn't need to be afraid of anything now. Gong Yin Jia stared at Gu Tian with his knife-like vision. His eyes conveyed a simple message. You don't approve? Then, get ready for a brutal fight. Our team contains people from various places, and everyone's strength is nearly the same. There is a saying a bird without wings cannot fly, and a snake without head cannot crawl. Anyway, one of us must step up and lead us in a certain direction. Otherwise, there will be a clash of opinions if there's no leader. Yu Rui opened his mouth this time and said. He hadn't anticipated that Gong Yin Jia would say such a thing at this time. However, he and Gong Yin Jia had a certain amount of mutual understanding between them. Therefore, he was in favor of Gong Yin Jia's proposal. But the complexions of Ding Tong and Xiao Yuan didn't look good. They were already in the weak position among the four original members. Now, Gong Yin Jia and Yu Rui had joined hands. So, it wasn't surprising that Yu Rui and Gong Yin Jia had gone out together and returned together as well. Unfortunately, the two girls had very bad relations with each other. So, it was impossible for them to join hands to veto out the decision of the two male members of the team. Brother Yi, do you now understand why I told you that we must stick together? Yi Shiwen heard Ding Tong's voice at this time. Yi Shiwen nodded. They might get swallowed if they didn't stick close together under the situation. Nobody has opposed. So, ill-regarded as everyone's approval. Gong Yanjia swept his dark and cold gaze across everyone. Everyone felt as if a wild beast was staring at them. Yi Shiwen could be called a humanoid monster because of his off-the-charts fighting strength. However, Gong Yanjia had made everyone feel that he was a beast draped in a man's skin. His sinister and ice-cold look had given everyone the chills. Then, everyone came to know from Yu Rui's introduction that these two old men whom Gong Yanjia had brought were known as Yin and Yang brothers. It was said that they were very infamous in a certain star field. It wasn't known how many women they had harmed. They used to plunder women's primary essences for their cultivation. So, it could be said that they were two very cruel people. They used to look for female experts for their cultivation. Many young female experts in that star field had fallen into the evil schemes of these two old bastards. The primary essences of men were useless to them. Therefore, they used to plunder only female experts. It wasn't known how many people had raised their voices against them and had gotten killed for it. They had once alarmed a senior great sage expert. However, they had gotten informed about him in advance and had escaped. The name of other black-clothed ice-cold woman was Mo Jun. She was a core disciple of a women-only sect. She was outstanding. Fufu, boy, you are only at the late stage of sage realm. But you've still dared to join this group. You're very courageous. However, you'll become a burden on us when the time comes. The black-robed old Yin among the Yin and Yang brothers laughed sinisterly at Yi Shiwen after their introductions had been made. Everyone was at the same level, apart from Yi Shiwen, whom Ding Tong had brought. Therefore, everyone was suspecting whether Yi Shiwen had the capability to be one of them. An expert of the late stage of sage realm couldn't be considered as weak. But the said expert couldn't be compared with these experts of sage great perfection realm. Therefore, saying that he would drag them down wasn't wrong. In fact, it was very logical. I will test him right away, okay? I will kill him right now if he has insufficient strength. The white-robed old Yang spoke loudly and looked into Yi Zaiwen's eyes. His gaze became increasingly ice-cold and ruthless. The white-robed old Yang's voice hadn't even faded when a majestic aura suddenly locked on Yi Shiwen. Then, a big hand suddenly swept down towards Yi Shiwen to grab him. It transformed into a sky full of clouds and slammed down. This was his famous master technique, the Yin and Yang big hand seal. A killer hand came down, and it seemed that it wouldn't give Yi Shiwen any way out. He and Yi Shiwen had no enmity. Still, he had resorted to such an extreme method against him. It was clear that his weird temperament wasn't just for show. Suddenly, a white Yin and Yang fish opened its big mouth and swam towards Yi Shiwen to bite him. Then, the white Yin and Yang fish transformed into a fierce beast. Spirit energies gathered from all directions and integrated into its body. The white-robed old Yang had the experience of several hundred years. So, he had practiced this Yin and Yang big hand seal to an unfathomable extent. It seemed that it would break the entire world as it smashed down. You're overreaching yourself. Yi Shiwen sneered. His entire golden vitality surged out and began to boil. It soared into the sky, and a fist punched upwards. The fist transformed into a big star and dashed up. The Yin and Yang fish had transformed into the yin-yang symbol. It seemed like the most intense collision in the universe when the yin-yang symbol issued an incomparably dreadful explosion. The entire space and the yin-yang symbol had gotten annihilated in that explosion. However, the momentum of Yi Zaiwen's fist hadn't decreased after it had pounded upon that white yin and yang fish. Bang! The explosion rose high up in the sky, transformed into endless spirit energies, and scattered in the atmosphere. Yi Shiwen trod forward at an extraordinary pace. His fist had arrived in front of the white-robed old Yang. "This is bad," the white-robed old Yang secretly muttered. However, there was no time to regret. So, he quickly retreated in frenzy. Rumble! Yi Zaiwen's fist smashed down on the valley, and the entire valley disintegrated. The rest of the people promptly retreated far away from the range of impact. They had a conflicted look on their faces as they looked at Yi Shiwen. Nobody had thought that Yi Shiwen could be so ferocious. Ding Tong was the one who had found him. However, even she hadn't thought that he could be so incredible. After all, she had only seen him escaping from the hands of a great sage expert and nothing more. She had roped him in because she was looking for a person with excellent agility skill. She had thought that it would be rather convenient if someone were to aid her in quick exploration when the time was right. However, she had suddenly seen that Yi Shiwen didn't merely possess an excellent agility skill. In fact, his strength was also very impressive. Everyone had a newfound respect for him. An ordinary person could never possess such awesome strength, and they certainly couldn't issue such a powerful move. She had never thought that Yi Shiwen could have such strength. The white-robed old Yang had retreated. However, Yi Shiwen wasn't going to let him off. That old man had attacked with all of his strength. He hadn't held back even a bit. So, how could Yi Shiwen spare him? Yin and Yang body protection, endless chaos, eternal existence. White-robed old Yang's Yin and Yang fish suddenly transformed into a Yin and Yang symbol and wrapped him up. The black-robed old Yin proudly looked at everyone and said, "This is the super technique of us brothers who follow the path of Yin and Yang. It is known as primal chaos of Yin and Yang. All living things will transform into the energy of Yin and Yang along with any form of energy that breaks into the field. And then it will be absorbed, so it's impossible to budge us." Everyone felt dreaded when they heard this. They pondered on this matter. How would we break out if we encountered this kind of Yin and Yang field? Everyone frowned since they didn't have any means to escape the field. In fact, it was very difficult to deal with the worldly forces related to chaos, such as Yin and Yang, the five elements, and so on. The reason for this was that such forces often flowed in the form of an unending stream. What's so great about this Yin and Yang of yours? Watch how I destroy it. Yi Shiwen was unfazed. His offensive didn't halt even a bit. There was nothing fancy about his attack. In fact, he hadn't used any special move. He had simply unleashed a dreadful attack with sheer brute power. This was the crudest attack. Bang! Yi Zaiwen's big star collided with that Yin and Yang-based attack, and it almost began to transform into Yin and Yang energy. In fact, it seemed as if it was evolving toward a more advanced grade of power. Bang! But then, that Yin and Yang-based attack began to explode in the face of Yi Zaiwen's fierce offensive and set off a dreadful storm. How is this possible? Nobody can tackle my Yin and Yang technique. How did you do it? The white-robed old Yang had a look of disbelief in his eyes as he gazed at Yi Shiwen. He couldn't believe that Yi Shiwen possessed such ability. His Yin and Yang power had emerged out of the dual cultivation. Many people looked down on it. However, it was a very clever kind of martial arts. Yin and Yang together contained the principles of all living things. He could possibly become a great sage expert if he continued to practice the Yin-Yang method. He had fought with many people who were at the same realm as him. However, nobody had been successful at cracking it, let alone cracking it so easily. What Yin and Yang technique? Is your Yin and Yang evenly balanced? Yi Shiwen said disdainfully. It would have been an enormous trouble for him if he had been facing the Yin and Yang brothers together. However, the white-robed old Yang had been relying only on the principle of transforming Yang into Yin. He had transformed a part of his Yang power into Yin polarity. However, the powers of Yin and Yang poles weren't in equilibrium. The power of Yang pole was still more powerful. It was simply impossible to form the balance between Yin and Yang with this creation method. Basically, it only appeared powerful. The white-robed old Yang hadn't met a unique and exceptionally powerful expert like Yi Shiwen before. Yi Zaiwen's offensive effortlessly broke the white-robed old Yang's attack. So, he had started to think about retreating since he was on the verge of death. However, Yi Zaiwen's power locked him firmly on the spot. So, he couldn't go anywhere. Stop! The black-robed old Yin finally reacted. After all, he couldn't let Yi Shiwen proceed with his attack. Suddenly, an extremely pure power of Yin polarity swept out towards Yi Shiwen. It seemed that it would stop him. However, How could it be so easy to stop Yi Shiwen? Bang! Yi Zaiwen's fist power hadn't lost its momentum. So, it finally smashed on the white-robed old Yang's body. Bang! The white-robed old Yang's body disintegrated before everyone's eyes. Brother, the black-robed old Yin screamed loudly. To be continued. Chapter 552. Brother, tears of blood came out of the eyes of the black-robed old Yin as he screamed. These two brothers had been roaming unhindered for many years. They had been inseparable. So, he had never expected that he would have to helplessly watch his brother explode to death one day. And this feeling had simply torn his heart apart. Yi Shiwen stretched out his left hand. It then turned into a claw, and that claw conveniently grabbed the mighty power of the Yin polarity that had been falling down and crushed it. It didn't matter whether it was the power of extreme Yin polarity or extreme Yang polarity. Yi Shiwen would give it no importance if there wasn't a proper balance between the Yin and Yang forces. My God, how can he be so powerful? Xiao Yuan stared blankly at Yi Shiwen. Her eyes contained a terrified expression. She had never thought that Yi Shiwen could be so powerful. She and Ding Tong were sworn enemies. Therefore, she had made fun of Yi Shiwen, whom Ding Tong had brought along. However, she hadn't thought that he could be so powerful, and she was extremely shocked as a result. She hadn't been this surprised when that cripple Gong Yin Jia had attacked. He had certainly gained the upper hand while confronting Gu Tian. However, both of them belonged to the same realm, and it was normal to have a strong person and a weak person in the same realm. However, Yi Shiwen had killed that white-robed old Yang, even though Yi Shiwen was merely at the late stage of Sage Realm. In fact, he had dominated him thoroughly, and that white-robed old Yang didn't even have the power to fight back in the end. These Yin and Yang brothers had to unite in order to display their supreme might. However, it was impossible now. Yu Rui and the other people had also become afraid after they had found out how powerful Yi Shiwen was. It could be clearly seen that they had been blown away by Yi Zaiwen's incredible fighting strength. He had pushed them in a bigger shock as compared to Gong Yinjia. "He'll kill you." The black-robed old Yin stared at Yi Shiwen with bloodshot eyes. It seemed that he wanted to tear him into two halves. A predominantly black Yin and Yang fish boiled in his hand. It then rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen sneered. He was about to deal with this black-robed old Yin when a divine beam fell from the sky and enveloped that black Yin and Yang fish. Everyone stared blankly. The man who had shot that beam turned out to be the cripple, Gong Yinjia. His eyes looked dark and ice-cold as he said in his husky voice, "This matter ends here. The entire team must follow my commands from now on. Didn't I tell you not to violate my order?" Gong Yinjia looked into Yi Zaiwen's eyes. His gaze was brimming with anger. However, it contained a bit of jealousy as well. He hadn't attacked Yi Shiwen recklessly, since he had also become somewhat afraid of him. He had been taken aback by Yi Zaiwen's recent performance. In fact, he was no longer sure that he would be able to defeat Yi Shiwen. Therefore, he hadn't attacked. He had connived with the white-robed old Yang to launch a big attack on Yi Shiwen. He had planned to take him down using the old Yang's brute strength. After all, he knew that everyone in this team had ulterior motives. So, he had planned to attack Yi Shiwen in order to overwhelm the others. However, he had clearly understood that he had made a blunder. There were many things that weren't as smooth as he imagined them to be. The white-robed old Yang had died at the hands of Yi Shiwen. But he couldn't let the black-robed old Yin die in a similar fashion. After all, he would lose his prestige if that happened. "He has killed my brother." The eyes of the black-robed old Yin were wide open. He hadn't thought that he would lose his brother in this fight. His heart was full of hatred for Yi Shiwen. However, he couldn't understand that the problem lay with him and his brother. After all, they wouldn't have kicked an iron wall like Yi Shiwen if they hadn't been so arrogant and despotic. In fact, this represented the saying, "You reap what you sow." Awesome. Gee, I couldn't have imagined that a character like you would be hidden among us. You're an elusive talent. The universe is so big, and it's full of wonderful things. Yu Rui stepped forward to resolve the dispute. A man like Brother Yi is involved in our operation this time. So, our operation will certainly go smoothly. No harm will come our way. Yu Rui continued. The black-robed old Yin didn't behave arrogantly towards Yi Xuan this time. This represented the so-called, saying one shows their arrogance towards those who aren't as powerful as them. After all, one must maintain their so-called dignity. The black-robed old Yin couldn't be arrogant while dealing with an expert like Yi Xuan. Otherwise, it would be too bad for him if Yi Xuan misunderstood him and got provoked. Moreover, he had also witnessed Yi Ziwen's ruthless side by now. So, he didn't wish to confront Yi Xuan directly. The black-robed old Yin swept his gaze across everyone. Ding Tong would definitely stand on Yi Ziwen's side. Xiao Yuan had also become furious with him and his brother a moment ago. Gu Tian had been blown away by his boss Gong Yanjia. So, he wouldn't help him either. Gong Yanjia could be considered to be on his side, but he didn't seem to be interested in collaborating against Yi Xuan. He could guess what these people were thinking at the moment. Each of them was selfish and had personal ambitions. So, why would they agree to take the risk of testing out Yi Ziwen's true strength in order to avenge his brother? Moreover, who would cry for them if they got slaughtered by Yi Xuan? He knew that he was no match for Yi Xuan without their help. His strength was almost the same as that of his brothers. And Yi Xuan had made his brother retreat again and again. His brother had been comprehensively defeated. In fact, his brother had been killed in only one move. The black-robed old Yin wasn't much better than his brother. The two brothers could have contended against Yi Xuan if they had joined hands against him. But how could they possibly join hands now? Therefore, he could only clench his teeth and glare at Yi Xuan. He had to forcibly make himself give up the idea of attacking Yi Xuan. However, he had developed a deep hatred for Yi Xuan in his heart. He would certainly not think twice before attacking Yi Xuan if he got the right opportunity. He hated all these people as well. After all, his brother would still be alive if they had tried to save him instead of sitting back and watching him die. Yi Xuan coldly looked at everyone. He had understood that each person in this team had ulterior motives. In fact, it was difficult to understand how such a team had been formed in the first place. He could trust Ding Tong, and only slightly at that. However, he believed that the other people would turn against him as soon as they got the opportunity. In fact, they wouldn't even think twice about it. All of us want to go to the tomb because there might be some secret regarding advancing to the great sage realm at that place. However, there's no need to harm friends. Yu Rui pretended to be a good man and said, it would be difficult to figure what kind of person was behind his goody two-shows persona if one hadn't seen the arrogance on his face earlier. We shouldn't delay in that case. It would be better if we got there quickly. Yi Xuan said, what are you so desperate about? The tomb wouldn't have opened yet. Gong Yanjia's hoarse voice revealed a contemptuous tone. It was clear that he was making fun of Yi Ziwen's lack of knowledge. However, Yi Xuan didn't get angry. After all, he indeed didn't know anything about this matter. So, it would be better if he followed other people for now. There must be layer upon layer of matrix formations outside the tomb. A large number of experts must have arrived there already. They may have brought the masters of matrix formations along with them. We don't need to attack the matrix formations. We must wait until those experts and masters have broken them down. We will take advantage of the confusion once those matrix formations are down, and we will enter without making any delay. Gong Yanjia said, a large number of experts must have arrived this time, and many of them should be at the sage accomplished level. They could get mixed among the ordinary experts and launch a surprise attack. Therefore, we must stay united. You must obey my orders. Otherwise, we will be defeated when the time comes. So, don't blame me for being strict. Gong Yanjia was looking at Yi Xuan as he said. Clearly, what he had said was directed at Yi Xuan. After all, Yi Xuan was the only one among these people whose ambitions he couldn't see through. Moreover, he had become a bit scared after he had witnessed Yi Ziwen's power. He was confident that he could deal with most of these people, but there was one person who might not obey him, and that individual was this extremely powerful, untamed, domineering, and violent man Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen showed neither approval nor disapproval. He remained quiet. After all, he would look for an opportunity to get away from this group when the time would come. And stay united? It was all bullshit. Anyone could tell that these people could never unite. Gong Yinjia had urged them to stay united in order to stop them from turning against each other. And this was probably a good strategy for now. Yi Shiwen wouldn't think of destroying this unity under normal conditions. However, Gong Yinjia had better not blame Yi Shiwen for being strict if the former tried to treat him as cannon fodder. Roar! 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 Gong Yinjia hadn't finished criticizing Yi Shiwen when the roars of demon beasts reverberated in the surroundings. Black clouds filled the entire sky, and waves of evil wind appeared like wailing ghosts and howling wolves. Countless tyrannical figures of hill-sized demon beasts appeared in front of everyone. Everyone's complexion suddenly changed. They were surrounded by an army of demon beasts. One must know that the most dangerous entities in the Great Gas Collar were these demon beasts. Nobody had been able to wipe out these demon beasts in all these years. The formidable ones among them had even formed a country of demon beasts. There wasn't any difference between them and the humans apart from their appearance. The most ferocious ones among them were the so-called commander beasts and soldier beasts. An ordinary person would have a hard time escaping if they came across them. These demon beasts were very cunning. In fact, the old demon beasts that had been living for thousands of years were as intelligent as humans, if not more. They had gathered as an army in order to chase and kill these human experts who had entered the Great Gas Collar. These demon beasts were much more organized as compared to the unorganized experts in Yi Zaiwen's team and all the other experts who had arrived from the Rivershore Star Field and many other star fields. And this organized army of demon beasts was a deadly threat. An ordinary person would have to struggle in order to escape if they came across these demon beasts. Damn it! How have these demon beasts found us? Yu Rui couldn't maintain his elegant demeanor this time, and secretly cursed. Yi Shiwen, Gu Tian, Xiao Yuan, and Ding Tong immediately recalled that demon beast who had been spying on them. They had killed it. However, they didn't know that it had managed to send the information which had attracted such a big army of demon beasts. To be continued. Chapter 553. Countless tyrannical demon beasts had been lurking in the Great Gas Collar, and it would be the most dreadful thing when they'd assembled and form an army. Yi Shiwen looked at the battle formation of the demon beasts. The majority of these demon beasts were at the semi-sage realm. Some more powerful and adult ones were at the sage realm. Such an army was terrifying from a general perspective. Hardly anyone could deal with this army. Humans, you must surrender obediently and become my slaves. I may spare your life if you do so. A buzzing voice came from the army of the demon beasts. It sounded somewhat hoarse and shaky. It seemingly sounded a bit shaky because they weren't used to talking in the human tongue. This army is being led by a demon commander. Yu Rui frowned and said. However, he looked somewhat relaxed. After all, it was much better to have a demon commander leading the army than a demon king. It didn't matter how powerful a demon commander was. It could at most be at the sage great perfection level. However, a demon king in the Great Gas Collar could even be at the sage accomplished realm. They might get an opportunity to escape if they were to come across such a large army of demon beasts or a sage accomplished level demon king. However, they wouldn't stand a chance if they had to face both of them together. However, Yi Shiwen could escape from the hands of a great sage expert. So, he wasn't much concerned. In fact, everyone had become relaxed after they had realized that it was only a demon commander who was leading this army. The demons have arrived. Everyone must get ready to execute them. Gong Yinjia sneered. What kind of arrogance did he possess? He wanted to command these experts in order to attain the supreme throne in the team. So, how could he surrender to these demon beasts? It was impossible. His voice hadn't faded when his legs suddenly stepped out. It transformed in a boundless wind and clouds and stamped down. Bang! A large number of demon beasts got crushed to death. The space got trampled down by his leg. Gong Yin Jia's tyrannical power was simply incredible. His cripple-looking leg was his weak point, but it was also his biggest weapon. He had transformed his defective leg into a sage tool. So, it possessed endless might and was extremely terrifying. It was no wonder that Gu Tian hadn't been able to stop his kick and had been sent flying. Undoubtedly, one of the reasons for it was that there was a difference in their strengths. However, the main reason was the infinite might that his leg had obtained after being transformed into a sage tool. The troubles keep coming one after another. Yi Shiwen frowned. It could be said that there were endless troubles in the Great Gas Collar. However, he didn't have any other option at this time. He had to go all out and slaughter these demon beasts. In fact, it wasn't only Gong Yinjia. Even the others weren't ready to withdraw. They all attacked one after another. They were outstanding people. They wouldn't surrender to anyone, let alone to these demon beasts. These sage great perfection level experts had attacked with their entire strength. How could those semi-sage level demon beasts stop their attacks? Even the sage level demon beasts in that group screamed as they got crushed to death one after another. Damn it, humans, you don't listen until you've been forced. Kill them for me, my children. Their flesh and blood will be a treat for us. The demon commanders flustered, and an exasperated command came from the middle of the army of the demon beasts. It believed that it was giving these humans a chance to live. Therefore, it hadn't expected that these humans would dare injure his children by disregarding his mercy. Suddenly, the densely packed army of demon beasts rushed towards the human team in an overwhelming manner, and a myriad of demonic martial arts were unleashed towards the human experts to kill them. These demon beasts couldn't match with these outstanding experts individually. However, they were marching in formation at this time, so they were able to firmly resist the attacks of these outstanding experts. Yu Rui and the other people could only unceasingly evade while facing this joint attack that consisted of various demonic martial arts. They didn't dare to get close. However, Yishuan didn't have time to care about other people. Countless densely packed demon beasts were rushing towards him. A storm of demon beasts was rushing towards him along with waves of demon wind. Countless martial arts transformed into demonic beams and swept out towards him. Yishuan didn't dare to delay. He promptly started to operate the observing person scripture inside his body. Then, two hammer-like fists transformed into two big stars and smashed down. Bang! 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 Pitiful screams were heard every time Yi Zaiwen's hammer-like fists pounded. They were accompanied by explosions of flesh and blood. Yi Mo was busy enjoying himself inside Yi Zaiwen's body. After all, the blood essences and inner cores of these demon beasts were being absorbed by the heavenly source mirror. Consequently, the mirror was becoming more and more powerful with each passing second. Its aura was also becoming more and more pure and smooth. Apparently, it was advancing towards an amazing transformation. It had to move ahead one step in order to transform into a great sage tool from a sage tool. It would be able to crush these demon beasts effortlessly once it had completed the transformation. The difference between a sage tool and great sage tool was same as the difference between a sage expert and great sage expert. It was like the difference between cloud and mud or heaven and earth. A great sage tool's full strength attack was almost equal to a great sage expert's full strength attack. It wouldn't matter how tyrannical the army of these sage-level demon beasts was if they were attacked with a great sage tool. They would be obliterated without exception. However, a huge amount of energy was required in order to complete the transformation, and it would take a lot of time to gather that much energy. Yi Shiwen was fighting with his entire strength since those demon beasts were way too many. He wasn't worried about defending himself or exhausting his entire real elemental energy. However, other people were. Ding Tong was fighting with a sage-level demon beast. It was a terrifying expert of the sage great perfection realm. She was unceasingly swallowing spirit dawn for replenishing her real elemental energy. However, she still wasn't able to keep up with the energy consumption required for facing the full strength attacks of this sage great perfection level expert. The attack of a sage great perfection level expert would certainly be overwhelming. Therefore, The consumption of real elemental energy and spirit energies would be of an astronomical amount. How could she meet this requirement? By depending upon her own natural rate of restoration. It was impossible unless she possessed a secret magical technique like the Phoenix regeneration technique that went against the heaven's will. Ding Tong was attacking with her entire strength and was swallowing all sorts of spirit dawn for replenishing her real elemental energy. However, she was still finding it difficult to hold her own. It was difficult to say who was stronger and who was weaker between a human expert and a demon beast, since both of them had strong and weak points. The key was to see who could display their strengths to the peak at a crucial time. Only the one who could display their strength to the peak could defeat their enemy. Ding Tong had ample fighting experience. However, her opponent was more cunning than her, and it was taking proper advantage of its tyrannical body. In fact, she would have lost 100 times by now if Yi Shiwen hadn't been helping her from time to time. Yi Shiwen, the blood essences of these semi-sage and sage-level demon beasts aren't enough. You must supply the Heavenly Source Mirror with lots of good quality blood essences if you want the Heavenly Source Mirror to become a great sage tool. In fact, it should level up very quickly if you kill a few great sage-level beasts and let it absorb their whole blood essences. Yimo's voice reverberated in Yi Ziwen's mind. He had absorbed a lot of blood essence and inner cores by now. However, those couldn't be put to use immediately. After all, he had to refine them first. Therefore, one must not look at it as the quantity is very huge, because high quantity is directly related to low quality. Therefore, the final result wouldn't be that good. It would be far better to kill a powerful demon beast to get the desired result. Other people would have certainly gotten scared to death if they had heard Yi Mo's idea. Gong Yanjia had killed many demon beasts under his foot. In fact, he had even crushed a demon commander of sage great perfection level. However, even he wouldn't dare to go deeper into the formation of these beasts. One would be torn to pieces by the countless formidable demon beasts if they went deeper into their formation. However, this was nothing for Yi Shiwen. It was very difficult for those demon beasts to injure him. Moreover, he could entheal himself with the help of Phoenix regeneration technique even if he sustained injuries. Therefore, this wasn't a problem for him. Yi Shiwen silently thought for a moment. What? You're asking me to kill a few great sage demon beasts? Great sage demon beasts don't grow on trees. It is very difficult to find them. Moreover, I can only escape a great sage demon beast. I'm not powerful enough to kill one. So, chasing after a great sage demon beast is definitely not a thing to consider. Promotion of Heavenly Source Mirror to Great Sage level still looked far-fetched. He had already decided that he would make Heavenly Source Mirror his primary divine tool. Therefore, it was worth it to invest everything into the Heavenly Source Mirror. After all, he would obtain great benefits in the future in the form of repayment. However, Yi Shiwen still decided to try to burst into the formation of demon beasts. There are too many demon beasts. They seem to be infinite in number. But this problem can't be solved by simply wasting time. In fact, the demon beasts would continue to arrive if we delay. Moreover, it won't be easy to wipe them out if they went back to the kingdom of demon beasts. The best way would be to kill the commanding general of these demon beasts. Then, this army of demon beasts would scatter. These demon beasts can be considered as intelligent as the human beings. However, they aren't humans. All of them are cruel and rebellious. They have gathered only because of the deterrence of their great general. So, I reckon that they will disperse if that senior demon general of theirs is killed. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate any further after he had thought this. He transformed into a golden streamer and burst into the group of demon beasts. Everyone watched him blankly as he burst into the group of demon beasts. Does he have a death wish? There's no need to be so rash. Yu Rue muttered to himself as his bayonet pierced an approaching demon beast. The other experts couldn't believe that someone had dared to burst into the demon beasts. One could probably sweep away a tribe of ordinary demon beasts. However, such an organized army of demon beasts was extremely terrifying. Damn it, this boy better not die. the black-robed old Een said, as if he was showing pity. However, he wasn't feeling pity for Yi Shiwen. He had said these words only because he wanted to kill him personally. What's he up to? An expression of shock flashed in Ding Tong's eyes. She didn't know what Yi Shiwen was planning to do. Gong Yinjia had been indulged in a crazy slaughter. However, even he was in a state of disbelief at the moment. But he didn't believe that Yi Shiwen was some crazy guy. He's a guy who kills very decisively. How can such a guy be insane? So, the only possibility is that he has some assurance. What's he leaning on? Why is he so powerful? To be continued. Chapter 554. Yi Shiwen didn't care about what other people were thinking at this time. His entire focus was on capturing the leader of these demon beasts. He wanted to kill that demon general as soon as possible. Otherwise, many junior demon beasts could get attracted towards this place, like moths are attracted towards light. One of the biggest reasons for the death of the majority of experts every time the Great Gas Collar had opened was that they had come across the army of demon beasts. The royal clan of the Great Yu State used to send its organized army to suppress the experts of the devil race whenever they surfaced around the Great Yu State in large numbers. The current scenario was basically the same as that. It was just that the positions had changed this time. Children, someone is daring to penetrate our battle formation. Show him our ferocity. A malicious laugh reverberated among the demon beasts. Yi Zaiwen's act was equivalent to courting death in their opinion. An expert of the Sage Great Perfection realm might be able to kill hundreds of semi-sage experts with just a slap. However, 1,000 or 10,000 semi-sage experts could contend against that expert of Sage Great Perfection realm if they joined hands. In fact, they could even kill the said expert of Sage Great Perfection realm. Whether it is quality or quantity, whichever side would display their strength to the extreme would emerge victorious. Yi Shiwen found that there were many different kinds of demon beasts when he went deeper inside, and all kinds of demon beasts were in abundance. There were many strange kinds of demon beasts present among them as well. So, he became certain that there was at least one kingdom of demon beasts nearby. An ordinary pack of demon beasts often possessed only one kind of demon beasts. It wasn't normal to have many different kinds of demon beasts mixed together. These demon beasts were arranged in squadrons of 3 or 4. These squadrons of 3 or 4 had combined to form a big battle formation. These demon beasts had already attained spiritual wisdom, and that was the most terrifying thing. Fufufu, there's a human expert. Such exuberant vitality. My martial power will reach to an unfathomable extent after consuming him. I haven't seen a human expert in a long time. Ha ha ha. He's bringing us blood and food. These human experts are the overlords and princes of their respective star fields. They are the elites. Each of them possesses infinite wealth. We would become rich if we looted even one of them. These demon beasts revealed greedy looks when they saw Yi Shiwen coming in. A human expert would need special methods if they wanted to absorb the blood essence of a demon beast and transform it into their martial power. However, these demon beasts possessed innate instincts. They could obtain the desired energy from the various types of flesh and blood that they consumed. Consuming a person like Yi Shiwen could be greatly beneficial to them. After all, Yi Shiwen had cultivated a formidable body-type power technique. His body contained plentiful blood, and he possessed vitality to an unfathomable extent. Moreover, he was hardly concealing his vitality right now. In fact, he had set it free. Therefore, his vitality had started to dazzle like a beacon in the night sky. Moreover, human experts often carried a lot of wealth on them. This was also the goal that they coveted. The demon beasts arranged themselves into a huge formation and madly attacked Yi Shiwen. They had attacked from every direction in an overwhelming manner. The scene looked exceptionally shocking. Buried person's sword. Yi Zaiwen's ice-cold voice seemed to have transmitted from hell. It sounded ruthless and callous. Whoosh! 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 Thousands of sword lights appeared in the sky and rushed out for hundreds of miles. The sword lights then slashed toward those soldiers who were rushing in. Bang! 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 It didn't matter whether it was a semi-sage expert or a sage expert. They all got cut into two halves by Yi Zaiwen's sword lights, and subsequently transformed into masses of blood fog. They were being slaughtered miserably, and the masses of blood fog that were being produced as a result were being absorbed by the heavenly source mirror inside Yi Zaiwen's body. There was no difference between semi-sage experts or sage experts before Yi Zaiwen's sword lights. All of them were getting slaughtered. Yi Shiwen was on a rampage. He seemed like a precise slaughtering machine. He was running amok and was slaughtering all these demon beasts. Yi Shiwen seemed like a heavy tank without brakes. He was simply unstoppable at the moment. The sword lights soared wherever he went. Each of his ice-cold and ruthless sword strikes appeared as accurate as mentioned in the textbook. Even the most basic sword techniques projected incredible power in his hands. Even the most random combinations of basic sword techniques possessed the might of some stunning sword technique. Yi Shiwen had gradually found some rhythm in transitioning between the lifting heavy weight as if light realm and lifting light weight as if heavy realm as he practiced it on the bodies of those demon beasts. Therefore, even a light sword strike could crush them like a heavy mountain. The demon beasts that had managed to enroll in this army were considered as the well-known figures among the demon beasts. However, they still couldn't contend against Yi Shiwen since he possessed the fighting prowess of a Heaven's Pride expert. They were simply not on his level. These demon beasts contained powerful energy of blood essence inside their bodies. So, the heavenly source mirror emitted increasingly bright rays of light since it was getting to absorb this blood essence. In fact, most of the attacks of these demon beasts weren't even reaching near Yi Zaiwen's body. They were exploding beforehand. They were being blocked by the scarlet screen of light that had been emitted by the heavenly source mirror. Even Yimo didn't wish to be left out. He rushed out of Yi Zaiwen's body, and a series of scarlet lights also swept out along with him. The demon beasts that got swept away by these blood lights immediately screamed, transformed into a pool of blood, and got absorbed in their entirety. Yi Zaiwen's slaughtering speed increased dramatically with Yi Mo's participation, and he slowly moved towards the core of the army of demon beasts. The depths of the army formation of these demon beasts felt overwhelming. The demon beasts were present everywhere. However, Yi Shiwen could still see that there was a city inside. In fact, it was a magical weapon in the shape of a city. The commanding general of this army of demon beasts was present in the center of this city. It appeared domineering and magnificent. Yi Shiwen was consuming his real elemental energy at a fast pace under such slaughtering. The primary spirit dawn were burning unceasingly inside the heavenly source mirror in order to replenish his real elemental energy. Yi Shiwen had to resort to this method in order to replenish his energy because of the non-stop slaughtering. No one could have dared to burst in like it, otherwise they would certainly have been annihilated. Human, accept your fate. A deep, gruff, and angry voice came from afar. It sounded like a thunderclap. Then a hill-sized demon beast dashed towards Yi Shiwen to kill him. This demon beast's body was completely covered in hard armor. Its grandiose aura locked upon Yi Shiwen. Its boundless aura swept out like a wave and swept away everything. Even the demon beasts in the vicinity had been swept away. However, this demon beast didn't seem to care. Instead, it appeared to be brimming with ruthlessness and thirst for blood. Its hill-sized body came charging in an overwhelming manner. Its gigantic body arrived in front of Yi Shiwen, but it somehow seemed as if a giant mountain had collapsed in front of someone. However, Yi Zaiwen's complexion looked tranquil. It didn't change even a bit. His brain was immersed in a high degree of calculation. He looked ice-cold and accurate like a machine at this time. He wouldn't make any mistake. His slim body quickly rushed up to face that hill-sized figure. Bang! Two entirely different bodies collided inside the army of demon beasts. One was big, and the other was small. Massive and terrifying forces swept out from both bodies and set off endless astral winds. Those astral winds condensed into an energy storm and swept all across. That energy storm rushed out in all directions like layers of dreadful sea waves and devastated everything in its path. Roar! 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 Those demon beasts in the vicinity that had been swept away by the energy storm screamed. After all of them had sustained serious injuries. In fact, the ones that had been close to the collision had been crushed into masses of minced meat. It was a scary sight. The clash between two Sage Great Perfection level fighting powers was second only to the clash between two Sage Accomplished level ones. The world collapsed and disintegrated. The calamity caused by this fight inside the army of demon beasts involved many of the surrounding demon beasts. However, Yishuan didn't care. Why would he care about the deaths of these demon beasts? Moreover, this demon beast was obviously accustomed to brutality as well. So, it too didn't care whether its subordinates died or survived. Bang! 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 This was a collision of two unequal bodies in terms of size. However, the one that had gone out flying wasn't the slim human. Instead, it was that hill-sized Sage Great Perfection level demon beast. This was way beyond the expectations of the demon beasts that were witnessing this fight. That hill-sized demon beast had been forced to retreat several steps by Yi Zaiwen's kick. It had gone back several steps, and every step of it had broken the space. Numerous cracks had been opened in the sky as a result. It could be clearly seen what kind of gravitational pressure it carried. Blood was seeping out from under its scale armor. Yi Zaiwen's attack had seriously injured its internal organs, even though it had worn armor. A terrified expression appeared in the eyes of the demon beast. It hadn't thought that this ordinary-looking human could be so powerful. Demon beasts were closely dependent upon their build regardless of whether they possessed formidable strength or not. However, Yi Zaiwen's frail body couldn't be considered big even among humans, let alone among these demon beasts. Therefore, Yi Zaiwen's body was like that of an ant as far as these demon beasts were concerned. It seemed as if someone was going to trample an ant to death, but had been injured by the ant instead. However, Yishuan didn't have time to waste. He quickly condensed the Hantan seal. It then transformed into a giant mountain and slammed down. Bang! The sky turned into a complete mess as numerous cracks got opened in it by the intense pressure of that mountain seal. The Sage Great Perfection level demon beast didn't get enough time to evade and got suppressed to death along with several hundred other demon beasts in the vicinity. Yishuan gripped his sword and went further inside the army of demon beasts. And he continued his slaughter of demon beasts en route. Everyone was watching Yi Zaiwen's progress from the outside. There were some people who were looking forward to seeing him die in there. However, they were all outstanding talents. So, how could they not have figured that Yishuan wasn't some crazy guy? He certainly had some backup. Yi Zaiwen's march into the deeper parts of this demon beast army gave rise to loud noises. There was chaos inside the entire army of demon beasts, and it was impossible to sweep in the divine sense to observe clearly. However, it could still be sensed where Yishuan was and where the chaos in the demon beast legion was. He is truly a monster. These words appeared in everyone's mind. The look of terror in the eyes of Gong Yin Jia got more and more intense. To be continued. Chapter 555. Yu Rui and the other people hoped that Yishuan would succeed in slaughtering the commanding general of the demon beasts as his assault started making more and more noise. Otherwise, they would get surrounded even more tightly by this army of demon beasts. And who would dare to say that they could escape if that happened unless they were an expert of the Sage Accomplished realm? They might have underestimated Yishuan initially. However, nobody dared to look down upon him now. It wasn't considered a big thing if a Sage Great Perfection level expert defeated another Sage Great Perfection level expert. However, it was a shocking thing if an expert of the late stage of Sage Realm defeated an expert of Sage Great Perfection Realm. Perhaps only a top-notch Heaven's Pride expert could achieve such a feat. In fact, they couldn't say with certainty whether a top-tier Heaven's Pride expert of the late stage of Sage Realm could defeat an ordinary Sage Great Perfection level expert. In contrast, it seemed that Yishuan could even prevail over a top-notch Heaven's Pride expert of Sage Great Perfection Realm. Thus, the disparity was huge. Yishuan didn't know what they were thinking. He didn't have the time to think about that right now. After all, an increasing number of demon beasts were surrounding him from all directions as he penetrated deeper and deeper whilst carrying his assault toward the center. His consumption of real elemental energy had reached to a terrifying height at the moment. Consequently, the heavenly source mirror had given up on absorbing the inner cores of demon beasts and had begun to transform the demon elemental energy that was present inside these inner cores into real elemental energy in order to keep up with the increasingly high energy consumption. Otherwise, the consumption of primary spirit dawn would have reached to an astronomical figure. Moreover, Yi Shiwen had been encountering the elite demon beasts since he had reached close to the center. These demon beasts were much more ferocious than those on the outskirts. The majority of the demon beasts on the outskirts were at the semi-sage realm. But those demon beasts had been replaced by sage-level demon beasts after Yi Shiwen had reached close to the center. Even Yi Shiwen had begun to find it strenuous. He had finally realized that there was a fundamental difference in the quality of this army of demon beasts and the hordes of demon beasts that he had slaughtered in the past. An average person would have already died if they had been in his place. Yi Shiwen, you can't continue to delay. Otherwise, a mishap may befall you. Yi Mo warned loudly. Yi Mo's entire body had turned red and was exuding an ominous bloody glow. He used to be somewhat weak and transparent. However, his entity had solidified after he had absorbed the inner cores and blood essences of a number of demon beasts during this battle. The heavenly source mirror had obtained enormous benefits. In fact, his body might take form if it continued like this. Yi Mo was merely a tool spirit. However, Yi Shiwen had always seen him as a mentor and a friend. Therefore, he would help him in reconstruction of his body and free him from the shackles of the heavenly source mirror with the passage of time. Of course, it would be better if Yi Mo chose the heavenly source mirror as his core and assimilated it. However, this wouldn't work for Yi Shiwen, since Yi Shiwen intended to make the heavenly source mirror his primary divine tool. Therefore, only two ways could be adopted. Either Yi Mo had to obtain an exceptionally good body, or he had to reconstruct his body by absorbing enough blood essence. At this moment, Yi Mo felt that his body would be formed again. Yi Shiwen nodded. I can't go on like this. It's already too late. I must kill all of those sage, great perfection level demon beasts. They are the generals of this army. This army of demon beasts would collapse and fall into confusion if I kill those generals. Yi Shiwen didn't wait any longer after he had thought this. He quickly unfolded his devil wings, transformed into a streamer of light, and shuttled inside the army of demon beasts like a lightning bolt. The power of wind and thunder began to boil on his wings and issued a thunderstorm. Those demon beasts which had been making futile attempts to get close to him were swept away by the power of wind and thunder, and were left to perish in the end. Yi Shiwen had finally gone all out. He had unleashed all of his firepower. A senior sage great perfection level demon beast had occupied a spot in the depth of the army. It was emitting a fierce aura from its body. It shouted at its subordinates and commanded them to launch a suicidal attack on Yi Shiwen. However, such tactics wouldn't work on a person like Yi Shiwen. After all, Yi Shiwen possessed a brilliant understanding of military tactics. In fact, this was simply a beginner's tactic in his eyes. After all, he had read all the books in the library of the Yuan school. He had grasped all the concepts of battle. In fact, he had a better understanding of military tactics than the veterans of his time. However, he hadn't gotten the opportunity to use these tactics till now. Moreover, he even had a profound understanding of those so-called theoretical battle tactics, which were hard to put into practice. However, he was still astonished to see that this demon beast general had the ability to unleash his troops to their demise. Yi Zaiwen's speed was extremely quick, and he arrived in front of that demon beast general of sage great perfection realm in an instant. Many soldiers were present in front of that general as a defensive line, but they weren't able to stop Yi Zaiwen's footsteps. Instead, they got blown away by the power of wind and thunder of his devil wings. Puny human, how dare you intrude in my domain? That demon beast general of sage, great perfection realm swept its glance. Its eyes looked cruel and ruthless as it swept out its tail towards Yi Shiwen. Its tail was thicker than Yi Zaiwen's body. The pointed end of the tail pierced through the vast sky and produced cracks in it. Its tail was no less than a magic weapon. Bang! Yi Shiwen grasped that thick tail with his hands, and the veins in his arms swelled as a result. He then spun around that sage great perfection level demon beast chief and formed a huge whirlwind. And the demon beast that had been trying to get close got swept away in a split second as a result. Another demon beast of sage great perfection realm rushed over. It trod down the sky and launched a long-range raid. This attack left the entire world to tremble and distorted the sky. Crack! The shrill sound of breaking of space was heard as Yi Shiwen threw away that sage great perfection level demon beast general. And it went into the direction of that other sage great perfection level demon beast that was executing the long-range raid. Bang! The two hill-sized beasts suddenly collided with each other and shook the world. Yi Shiwen strode forward and stepped across a long section of space. He had arrived above the two giant beasts in the sky in an instant. He brandished his fist. It smashed into space, and a tremendous force suddenly exploded in the void. The two sage great perfection level demon beasts were supposed to be extremely powerful, but they were practically nothing in front of Yi Zaiwen's fist. They got crushed into a mass of blood fog by the big star. Then the heavenly source mirror absorbed their blood essence. Suddenly, the heavenly source mirror emitted brilliant rays of scarlet light. The blood essence obtained from these two sage great perfection level demon beasts was much better than the blood essence obtained from the entire crowd of semi-sage level demon beasts. However, Yi Shiwen didn't stop there. He went deeper into the formation and continued to slaughter the sage great perfection level demon beasts wherever he saw them. Those sage great perfection level demon beasts were considered to be extremely fierce, but they looked insignificant in front of him. At present, Yi Shiwen could defeat even a Heaven's Pride expert of Sage Great Perfection realm. So, these ordinary Sage Great Perfection level demon beasts were nothing for him. Who is this human? He is brutal. It seems that he's targeting the Sage Great Perfection level demon beasts like us. Damn it, this man is killing wantonly. He wants to kill all of us. The demon beast generals began to use their divine senses to communicate among themselves. After all, they had realized that Yi Shiwen wanted to eliminate all of them in order to cause the collapse of their army of demon beasts. There were numerous demon beasts in this army. In fact, they were simply endless. However, there weren't many demon beasts of Sage Great Perfection realm among them. There were only about a dozen of them, and only 6 of them remained at this time. Yi Shiwen and Gong Yanjia had killed the others. Therefore, those remaining 6 demon beasts of Sage Great Perfection realm rushed out at the same time. After all, they couldn't allow Yi Shiwen to continue with his killing spree. Otherwise, the entire army of demon beasts could collapse. Those 6 demon beasts had rushed out collectively. Each of them was at the Sage Great Perfection realm, so they could be considered as the elites among sage experts. Damn human die. Those Sage Great Perfection level demon beasts assembled in a matrix formation. They strode over quickly like a storm, even though they had enormous bodies. Then, they launched a joint attack on Yi Shiwen. Those attacks condensed into an incredibly huge sword in the sky and swept down towards Yi Shiwen. These Sage Great Perfection level demon beasts had used a special matrix formation. The combined strength of the 6 huge Sage Great Perfection level beasts had been concentrated into that incredibly huge sword. So, it seemed that it would smash the sky into pieces. Some unlucky demon beasts couldn't escape in time and were cut into 2 halves by that sword. The huge sword had even smashed their souls into pieces. It was evident that those demon beasts didn't have any luck on their side. Huh! Yi Shiwen shouted as his golden vitality surged out. Buried Heaven's Sword. Yi Zaiwen's pores emitted sword energy. This sword energy condensed into a sword in the sky and faced the bombardment of the incoming sword energy. Rumble! The two swords suddenly collided with each other. Nothing could remain intact under the dreadful force issued by this collision. It swept out energies. These energies swirled in the air and crushed the space in a fine powder. Consequently, the chaotic energy was left to surge in all directions. However, the potency of the sword intention that was condensed inside Yi Zaiwen's sword energies didn't decrease. Moreover, Yi Zaiwen's sword had already defeated the sword that had been condensed jointly by those sage great perfection level demon beasts. Bang! 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 The sage great perfection level demon beasts weren't able to resist Yi Zaiwen's ferocious buried heaven sword. Then his formidable sword intention locked onto them and left them incapable of making an escape. Therefore, they got chopped down and transformed into a mass of blood fog. They had been at the sage great perfection level before their deaths. However, there was a difference of cloud and mud between their strength and that of Yi Zaiwen's. The remaining demon beasts instantly scattered like scared birds as this happened. After all, they had been freed from the reins of these sage, great perfection level demon beasts. So, they let out strange cries and began to run away one after another. These human experts seemed like gods of death to them. In fact, these demon beasts would have escaped long ago if they hadn't been under the restraints of those few sage, great perfection level demon beasts. However, they didn't have those restraints on them anymore, since those sage, great perfection level demon beasts had been killed by Yi Xuan. Therefore, these ordinary demon beasts had decided to flee. To be continued. Chapter 556. Those demon beast soldiers scattered like scared birds and disappeared without a trace. After that, Yi Xuan collected that huge city at the center of the army of demon beasts. After all, it was a sage tool. It was certainly undeveloped. However, it was a sage tool nonetheless. "Ha! Yi Xuan, it's a big gain." Yi Mo's excited voice emitted from the depths of Yi Zaiwen's mind. It's hard to tell how much wealth this army of demon beasts had plundered, and all that wealth has been concentrated in this city-type divine tool. Yi Zaiwen's divine sense made a round. This army of demon beasts had been moving unhindered in the Great Gas Collar for several hundred years. It was hard to say how many treasures and spirit dawn had been plundered by them. The majority of that wealth had already been consumed by them. However, an astronomical amount of wealth was still left in the stock. There were hundreds of pseudo-sage tools among that wealth. These pseudo-sage tools couldn't be sold for as much as the sage tools in the outside world. However, their quantity was extremely huge, so they could collectively be sold for a good price. Many elixirs were also present among the treasures. These elixirs had matured to a great extent since the Great Gas Collar had opened after a long time. In fact, they had become exuberant. The demon beasts that had gathered these elixirs didn't have the ability to refine them using alchemy. So, they had basically gathered them for direct consumption. They used to eat all kinds of heavenly treasures. They were exceptionally luxurious. And all these things had fallen into Yi Zaiwen's hands now. However, he didn't pay attention to them and placed them inside the heavenly source mirror. Everyone was blankly staring at his cyan figure in the sky. Their eyes were full of disbelief. He has slaughtered them all within such a short span of time. Ding Tong's face also exposed a look of disbelief as she gazed at Yi Xuan. She was the one who had found Yi Xuan. However, she hadn't expected that he could be so powerful. It was simply beyond her imagination. Everyone was shocked. They had wished for Yi Zaiwen's success from the bottom of their hearts. However, they hadn't thought that he would be able to succeed. Yi Xuan felt several gazes on him after he had obtained the city and placed it inside the heavenly source mirror. They turned out to be the members of his team. The eyes of the black-robed old Een brimmed with resentment and despair as he looked at Yi Xuan. He had witnessed Yi Zaiwen's performance. So, he now knew that he might not be a match for this confident and fearless young man, even if he were to mount a sneak attack on him. Gong Yanjia also looked at Yi Xuan. He had a strong sense of alertness in his eyes and a somewhat violent expression on his face. Yi Shiwen smiled at them and revealed his pure white teeth. His teeth were shining brightly. However, it wasn't so in the opinion of the members of the small team who possessed ulterior motives. In fact, they felt that Yi Shiwen was as dreadful as a phantom that had crawled out of the hell, even with his handsome face and sunny smile. They couldn't help but tremble in fear. That outstanding, young, and seemingly naive cyan figure looked out of place in this bloody sky, which was filled with corpses and blood. All right, it's time for us to leave for that tomb, since those demon beasts have turned back. We may not be able to show up there early. However, there is no harm in letting others do the exploration first. Gong Yin Jia was the first one to react. He opened his mouth and spoke up. His hoarse voice had become even more unpleasant after the battle. It sounded like the voice of an old crow now. He usually looked unpleasant due to his ugly facial features and abnormal body. However, everyone suddenly felt that he looked much more pleasing to the eye than Yi Shiwen. After all, he hadn't defeated an army of demon beasts single-handedly. However, Yi Shiwen was somewhat surprised by Gong Yin Jia's mild reaction. An ordinary person would have gotten majorly affected after watching him defeat an army of demon beasts. It wasn't that Gong Yin Jia's complexion had remained unchanged. However, it seemed that he was merely wary and nothing more. He wasn't terrified. This wasn't a normal thing for Yi Shiwen. Does he have a trump card up his sleeves? Gong Yin Jia also seemed to be analyzing him at this time. Undoubtedly, Gong Yin Jia posed the biggest threat to him in this team. In fact, Yi Shiwen had attacked comprehensively in order to intimidate everyone. Yi Shiwen wasn't worried about what these people were scheming behind his back at the moment. However, it obviously wasn't a good thing if there was always someone scheming against him. It looked like Yi Shiwen hadn't fully achieved his goal of frightening them. Everyone agreed with Gong Yin Jia's suggestion. After all, these people had come specifically for obtaining the secret that was hidden inside the tomb. In fact, most of them couldn't even think of getting into the top 10 positions for inheriting the heritages of great building. It was obvious that that contest would be even more intense. The team didn't delay further and proceeded in the direction of the legendary tomb. They came across an increasing number of demon beasts along the way. Those beasts were getting increasingly concentrated as they moved toward the tomb, which was located in the depths of the Great Gas Collar. However, fortunately, they hadn't come across an army of demon beasts again till now. Otherwise, they would have had to face great difficulty in moving ahead. Even Yi Shiwen didn't want to face them again, since it would be too troublesome. However, the most terrifying thing that could happen was that they could come across a Demon King level commander. There would be no problem if they just had to fight an ordinary demon commander. However, it would be too bad for them if a Demon King of Sage accomplished realm confronted them. In fact, no one apart from Yi Shiwen could dare to say that they would surely come out alive in such a case. Yi Zaiwen's speed was the fastest in this team. It seemed that he was willingly serving as the brave vanguard of the team. Moreover, he even went ahead while slaughtering all the demon beasts in their path. Everyone had come to know how terrifying Yi Zaiwen's slaughtering efficiency was. In fact, there was no difference between a single demon beast and a group of demon beasts in front of him. Master. Yi Shiwen may turn out to be the most unexpected part in Master's plan. He may become the biggest obstacle for Master when the time comes. We must eliminate him before it's too late. The black-robed old Yin's eyes were full of hatred and desire for revenge as he looked towards Yi Shiwen. He was the one who hated Yi Shiwen the most. One would have jumped in fear if they had heard the black-robed old Yin address Gong Yin Jia as master. Everyone in the team believed that the black-robed old Yin was a helper whom Gong Yin Jia had found. However, their relationship was much different than what they had imagined. It doesn't matter. He has certainly proved to be beyond my expectation. However, he can still become a good pawn if used properly. Gong Yin Jia coldly replied. His ugly face looked sinister as he let out an evil grin. He's like an ant in my eyes, and it'll crush him to death if he dares to jump around. Gong Yin Jia looked towards Yi Shiwen with his ice-cold vision and said, His gaze looked indifferent and ruthless. It seemed as if he was looking at a dead person. However, he soon went back to his former alert expression. "It'll crush you to death when you'll be of no use to me." Everyone was anxious. Everyone had their own ulterior motives. So, nobody had noticed the communication between Gong Yin Jia's and the black-robed old Yin's divine senses. Yi Shiwen, Gong Yin Jia, and that old Yin were looking at you when they were communicating through their divine senses. They are probably scheming something against you. Yi Mo suddenly reminded Yi Shiwen. Yi Ziwen's hand had transformed into a hand sword. A set of simple sword techniques had displayed incredibly might on being used by his bare hands. The demon beasts that had come in his path had been cut into two halves by him barehanded, and they had then been absorbed by the heavenly source mirror. Yi Ziwen's team members might have been thinking of him as a resource that was doing the hard and brave work of being a vanguard. However, he didn't think so. After all, the blood essences and inner cores of the demon beasts that he had been killing were being absorbed by the heavenly source mirror. And the heavenly source mirror had been becoming stronger bit by bit as a result. This meant that he had also been becoming stronger. So, he wasn't doing some laborious and meritorious deed as far as he was concerned. Scheming against me? Yi Ziwen's expression turned ice cold. He was certainly aware of the fact that everyone in this team harbored ulterior motives. After all, a team wouldn't add people to its ranks in such a casual manner. However, his choice had been proven to be correct. After all, he might not have heard of this tomb if he hadn't joined this team. He had obviously been able to gather much less information about the Great Gas Collar as compared to most of the other people because of the interruption caused by King Tai. Yi Shiwen could at most trust Ding Tong and the entire team. The black-robed Old Yin and Gong Yin Jia harbored a great resentment for him. Therefore, they couldn't be trusted in any way. The black-robed Old Yin hated Yi Shiwen because Yi Shiwen had killed his brother, while Gong Yin Jia hated him because he was a threat to his command over the team. Therefore, these two men's attitude wasn't very nice towards Yi Shiwen. Now, both of them had gathered. So, what Yi Mo had said had to be true. After all, what else could they be doing if they weren't scheming against him? I had anticipated this. These two have been dying to get rid of me. They certainly won't give up easily. Yi Shiwen coldly smiled and said, "Gong Yin Jia has a hidden strength which he hasn't revealed yet. He obviously thinks that he can destroy my hidden strength using his own. However, that won't work. The highest strength that is allowed inside the Great Gas Collar is the strength of the Sage Accomplished Realm. An ordinary Sage Great Perfection level expert won't last against such incredible strength. However, I can easily escape a Sage Accomplished level expert even if I can't beat them. Moreover, I have the Blood Slave. The Blood Slave has deeply integrated into the body of the Star Colossus. It will come in handy sooner or later. And the schemes of these people will only turn out to be wishful thinking once that happens. However, I mustn't fall into any trap. Yi Shiwen could escape even from the hands of a great sage expert, but he couldn't be considered invincible in this Great Gas Collar as per his current strength. However, he didn't need to worry about self-protection. He still couldn't use the body of that Star Colossus. At present, the Blood Slave could display the strength of the late stage of half-step Great Sage Realm using the body of the Star Colossus. However, this was against the rules of the Great Gas Collar, so it might get obliterated if it appeared. Moreover, the Blood Slave was an external entity and wasn't the original soul of this Star Colossus. Their agreement still looked distant since it hadn't reached to a sufficient level. Consequently, the Blood Slave was incapable of suppressing the strength of the Star Colossus down to Sage Accomplished level. Therefore, it couldn't be brought into use unless he went out of the Great Gas Collar. But he at least didn't need to worry about self-protection. Therefore, whatever those two men had been scheming against him was only wishful thinking, nothing more. However, these two men are a pain in the butt. The killing intention soared in Yi Ziwen's heart. He wouldn't show any mercy if and when he would face these two men that were scheming against him. Regardless of what ulterior motives everyone in this team had in their hearts, They had finally arrived in front of a huge mountain range after traveling for half a month. The mountain range was covered with energy clouds, and these clouds were producing shrieking and howling sounds. To be continued. Chapter 557. The mountain range appeared to be endless. One couldn't see its boundary. It had seemed great and boundless at first. However, it seemed gloomy and horrific now. There was danger lurking at every corner. Moreover, it had been locked up by the vast dark clouds. So, there was gloom all around the place. There wasn't even a trace of daylight. Moreover, the shrieks of some strange creatures, which definitely weren't beasts, were coming from the mountains from time to time. And these sounds were enough to scare everyone. Hoo 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 hoo. Bursts of evil wind came from inside the mountain and blew against everyone's body. The gloomy and bone-chilling wind made everyone shiver. Each of these experts had profound cultivation. However, they still shivered as the chill wind caressed their bodies. However, they weren't shivering because it was cold. In fact, their cultivation would allow them to move freely even in an environment with temperature of hundreds of degrees below zero. They were shivering because of the chilling energy that was piercing their souls. This soul-piercing energy was emanating from the mountains. Moreover, they could sense the presence of the undead creatures that were lurking in the mountain range. Could it be that this place has given birth to a lot of undead creatures? Yi Shiwen secretly pondered. He was familiar with these undead creatures. He had witnessed countless tyrannical undead creatures during his trip to the Demon Island. In fact, he hadn't forgotten the roars and shrieks of those undead creatures till now. Gong Yin Jia's voice sounded like that of an old crow. But the roars of these undead creatures sounded like the combination of all the unpleasant sounds in the world. And these strange and sharp sounds were making everyone tremble with fear. Yi Zaiwen's conjecture was very much possible. After all, this was probably the tomb of a great powerhouse. And the birth of some undead creatures in the presence of such an extremely gloomy environment was a normal thing. Is the graveyard located inside this mountain range? Yi Zaiwen's divine sense swept out and flowed into Ding Tong's ears. He expected Ding Tong to be aware about the key location since she had invited him on this trip. Other than that, one could also get some idea about the various key spots from the big outline map of the Great Gas Collar. The Great Gas Collar had opened many times before. Therefore, many places had already been explored by the people. Yi Shiwen had also thought of obtaining a map. However, he unfortunately hadn't gotten the time to do so since King Tai had disrupted his plan. That's right. This mountain range is known as Evil Corpse Mountain Range. Undead creatures are present everywhere in these mountains. Initially, there was a rumor that this mountain range could be the most evil place in the entire Great Gas Collar. It has been formed after the convergence of all the negative energies of the Great Gas Collar. In fact, I've heard that this place used to be a battlefield, and many experts have been slaughtered at this ancient battlefield. However, the resentful souls of those dead experts weren't ready to leave at that time. So, they had gathered and formed this Evil Corpse Mountain Range. There are many other rumors apart from this. It turns into a very dangerous place every time the Great Gas Collar opens. I will provide you with a map of this place. Ding Tong replied. She then used her divine sense to pass on a map of the Great Gas Collar to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen absorbed the entire map in his mind in an instant, and he got an overall idea about the Great Gas Collar as a result. Now, his knowledge on this matter wasn't vague like it used to be. In fact, it seemed as if the fog that had blurred his vision had suddenly disappeared. This map was certainly incomplete. However, it was sufficient for Yi Shiwen. He found some records regarding the Evil Corpse Mountain Range when he carefully looked at the map. However, the map's author hadn't clarified the main reasons clearly. He had only written some rumors and some predictions. Moreover, the map didn't seem to have the correct inferences. However, someone had accidentally found the tomb's exit when the Great Gas Collar had opened last time. It had revealed the true colors of this evil corpse mountain range. It was an underground burial site that stretched up to thousands of miles. It's reckoned that the perennial presence of negative Een energy has slowly evolved this mountain range into such a gloomy place. And the corpses of the creatures that had died in these giant mountains have also transformed into zombies over the years. Ding Tong said, "Everyone, that tomb is inside this mountain range. You must be careful because this sinister mist contains the poisonous miasma of corpses." Gong Yinjia said. It seemed that everyone had understood clearly. In fact, everyone already knew something or the other about this place through various means. They were going to face a deadly situation. So, how could they possibly have come unprepared? However, Yi Shiwen had recently become aware of this place. So, he didn't know much about it. A protective layer of real elemental energy appeared on everyone's body. It wrapped them up. It didn't matter whether it was the evil energy of the corpses, the poisonous corpses themselves, the various kinds of malignant influences, or the negative energies. Nothing could come close to them. They hadn't gone too far into the evil corpse mountain range. However, they had started to fear this place once again because the superficial protective layer of real elemental energy on their bodies had begun to issue crackling sounds. The protective layer was being corroded by the poisonous miasma of the corpses, and the speed of corrosion was extremely quick. Fortunately, they had profound cultivations. An ordinary semi-sage expert in their place would have gotten corroded to death by now if they had entered this place. Even an ordinary sage-level expert couldn't stay here for long. Rustle! Rustle! Suddenly, countless withered vines issued rustling sounds as they appeared in the sky from all directions. They then swept out towards everyone. It seemed that they intended to bind everyone's bodies and drag them away. Everyone looked closely. It turned out to be a dozen or so trees which had come from a dead tree forest located far away. Those trees contained countless withered vines, and these withered vines had stretched to more than a dozen miles in the sky in order to attack the team. Damn it! It's Pregnant Corpse Tree. Gu Tian clenched his teeth and secretly cursed. Then his hand moved at a lightning speed, and he broke down a vine. However, he had become extremely depressed in his heart. A terrified expression had appeared on everyone's face. There were no normal creatures inside this evil corpse mountain range. Even the plants were monstrous. These pregnant corpse trees were present everywhere, and they were extremely terrifying. They used to drag away living creatures and absorb their entire blood essence. And those creatures would transform into dried-up corpses as a result. Moreover, the deceased would transform into zombies after they had remained under the influence of the evil Een wind for hundreds of years. But they would be able to escape after they had transformed into zombies. This was the reason these trees were known as pregnant corpse trees. Everyone became extremely terrified when they thought about these trees that gave birth to zombies. Fortunately, these trees were still more than a dozen miles away from the team. Otherwise, they would have landed into an enormous trouble. Everyone scattered one after another. They broke down the vines and quickly flew away from this place. This evil corpse mountain range is extremely strange. It's hard to say how many formidable and grotesque creatures this place has. Many experts of Sage Peak Realm and even Sage Small Perfection Realm must died at this place. We must be extremely careful. Gong Yin Jia's expression turned dignified. He had put down the thought of scheming against Yi Shiwen for the time being. After all, there were much more dreadful things to be worried about right now. He would be able to scheme against Yi Shiwen only if he lived. Gong Yin Jia, you must have some information about this evil corpse mountain range, since you were the one who was spearheading this operation. You must have a detailed map as well. Take it out, and let us have a look. You must let us know what we are dealing with. Yi Shiwen indifferently said. Yi Shiwen had already come to know about this place from Ding Tong. Ding Tong, Yu Rue, Gong Yin Jia, and Xiao Yuan were the 4 founding members of this team. However, Gong Yin Jia had spearheaded this operation. He was the chief planner. So, It wasn't possible that he hadn't prepared for it. In fact, no one would believe it if they were told that Gong Yin Jia hadn't prepared for the operation. Naturally, everyone's gaze fell on Gong Yin Jia. They also knew that Gong Yin Jia had spearheaded this operation. And they also knew about this weird, evil corpse mountain range. It could be said that there was danger everywhere. They wouldn't have been worried if they didn't know anything about this place. However, that wasn't the case. But it was obvious that Gong Yin Jia must prepared for this place. So, he must have a map as well. And it would become difficult for him and these people to work together if he didn't take it out for everyone to see. Anyway, nobody wanted to die. So, who wouldn't want to have something that could increase the odds of their survival? Gong Yin Jia shot a glance at Yi Shiwen, and an intermittent killing intention appeared in his eyes. Obviously, each of these people possessed ulterior motives. The reason why he had formed such a team was that he wanted to survive by using them as cannon fodder. He had planned to kill them after using them, since he wouldn't have any problems then. After all, could a dead person hold him accountable for anything? However, he was faced with an unavoidable issue at this time. After all, this team of people who already possessed ulterior motives might become even more disunited if he didn't speak up. Audacious! What do you think of yourself? The black-robed old Yin opened his mouth and said, Young Master Gong Yin is the leader of our team. It's fine if he keeps the map with himself. We just have to follow him. That's all. However, everyone in the team superciliously looked at him as soon as his voice faded away. There wouldn't have been any problem if everyone in this small team was of one mind. However, everyone clearly knew what was going on. Gong Yin Jia got a headache because of this. In fact, he was having doubts about his plan. Have I made a mistake in my plan? I shouldn't have found such extremely troublesome people to be used as cannon fodders. What do you think of yourself? Who said you could speak now? Yi Shiwen looked at the black-robed old Yin with his ice-cold vision. He didn't conceal his killing intention, and everyone could see it in his eyes. He wouldn't mind crushing the black-robed old Yin to death if that person wanted to fight. Yi Shiwen wasn't prepared. However, the opposite party wasn't prepared either. Therefore, it would be better to strike first and gain the upper hand by catching the opposite party by surprise instead of giving them a chance to prepare and rise in revolt. Otherwise, God knows when he would lead him into danger. Obviously, the other people were also thinking this. After all, everyone was distrustful. They were initially hesitant about whether they should speak or not. However, they weren't worried about anything now since Yi Shiwen had spoke up. They could also clearly see this time that the team was divided into two factions. One faction belonged to Yi Shiwen, while the other belonged to Gong Yin Jia. Both of these individuals were exceptionally fierce. They wouldn't stand any nonsense. I won't mind sending you to join your brother in hell if you are so eager to die, Yi Shiwen said in a deep voice. Everyone became chilled to the bone as they heard this, since they recalled how easily Yi Shiwen had defeated the white-robed old Yang. Gong Yin Jia took a deep breath while facing everyone's gaze. Then he said, I don't want to keep the map to myself. We all belong to the same team. So, we must be of one mind. I would like everyone to see the map that I have in store. To be continued. Chapter 558. Gong Yin Jia waved his big hand, and it transformed into a map in the sky. It was the map of Evil Corpse Mountain Range. A few dangerous spots that had been previously explored by people were marked on this map. Yi Shiwen knew that Gong Yin Jia hadn't shown the complete version of the map. Even so, Yi Shiwen had gotten a better idea of the Evil Corpse Mountain Range. Therefore, he wasn't in the dark like he used to be. After all, he didn't even know where to go some time ago. Yi Shiwen couldn't help being emotional. What was the worth of heritage? Those with solid heritage would always be much superior to a random cultivator with no background. After all, they had come from a deemed sect and possessed an inheritance as a result. It was the same as the children of officials and entrepreneurs in his previous life. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to compete with them even if the competition was fair. After all, the starting point wasn't the same for elites and commoners. Yi Shiwen was far away from the true martial world at this time. So, He couldn't enjoy the resources and information that had been accumulated for thousands of years by the true martial world. So, there was no difference between him and a random cultivator with no background at the moment. Gong Yin Jia had revealed enough information for him at a time when he was in the dark. Everyone became relaxed after they had seen the map, and they didn't complain after that. Yi Shiwen, this map may not be too reliable. Yimo said, maybe not, but it's still much better than being in the dark. Yi Shiwen replied. Everyone flew into the depths of the Evil Corpse mountain range after the map's issue had been resolved. They could frequently see experts like themselves rushing into the depths of Evil Corpse mountain range. It was obvious that all of them had obtained the news about the depths of the Evil Corpse mountain range. Most of these experts were at the Sage Small Perfection realm. However, there was no shortage of Sage Great Perfection level experts among them. They might not be as formidable as Yi Shiwen and the other people of this team. However, they weren't weak either. Their teams also fought several battles. Some battles were against a few other teams, while some were against the zombies that were wandering inside the Evil Corpse mountain range. The human experts and demon beasts that had transformed into zombies after their death were also present among these zombies. Everyone had become scared when they had seen this scene for the first time. These zombies were very formidable. However, they weren't scared of these zombies. Instead, they were scared of this Evil Corpse mountain range since it could turn exceptional powerhouses into mindless zombies. There have been a very few cases in normal places wherein an ordinary person had transformed into zombies after their death. After all, it was possible only at the right place and under the right circumstances. However, it was a completely different deal at this place. This place was rich in the negative-ine energy, and this negative energy could directly transform the powerhouses into zombies upon their death. Roar! Suddenly, a roar came from under the ground where everyone was standing. A big hand swept out of the ground and moved towards Yi Zaiwen's foot to grab it. It was an incomparably pale and rough hand. Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate to stamp down his feet. The ground shattered in an instant, and cracks opened in the surrounding space. That big hand suffered a fracture. However, Yi Shiwen became somewhat speechless. He was amazed by the hardness of this hand. He knew well that he possessed tyrannical strength. It wouldn't be an overstatement if it was said that he could easily crush a mountain. However, this hand had withstood his strength. It had only suffered a fracture. This was a miracle. This proved that these zombies had very tough bodies. They were still very difficult to deal with. Yi Shiwen had understood that these zombies were very ferocious during his time on the Demon Island. Moreover, they were outside the bindings of the 3 realms and 5 elements. It could be said that these zombies were the very definition of trouble. These zombies were different from the zombies that had been ordinary people before transformation. These zombies were extremely powerful experts before their deaths. Some of them had been sage experts before their death. Therefore, these zombies would be even more troublesome. However, Yi Shiwen had merely thought about this. His actions hadn't slowed down because of these thoughts. He stamped his foot and released a very incredible force downwards. The entire ground trembled. His golden divinities permeated into the ground and shattered the zombie that had been preparing to mount a sneak attack on him. These zombies were the most troublesome. It was clear that this zombie used to be an expert who had arrived to explore this place, but had died instead, and his corpse had transformed into a zombie thereafter. Everyone felt a little bad for that expert after realizing this. After all, they had also arrived here to explore like him. They also wanted to obtain that legendary secret. Everyone continued to move ahead. They came across the surprise attacks of a few zombies from time to time. All of these zombies were very powerful. Even a Sage Great Perfection level zombie appeared once. These experts had to collaborate in order to resist that zombie. However, it still had been very hard for them to resist it. Finally, Yi Shiwen timely moved into action and took down that zombie. These zombies must have been powerful when they were alive. However, now they were just a bunch of walking corpses that had no soul or consciousness. These zombies would have given birth to resentful spirits within themselves if they were to be placed in the outside world, and thus they would become another kind of intelligent creatures. However, it seemed that their resentful spirits had been suppressed by the great gas collar. So, there was no sign of such phenomenon. It seemed that they were acting on their instincts. These zombies were wandering alone. However, they were present in abundance. In fact, there were too many of them. This team possessed incredible strength, but it still took them 3 full days to reach the depths of the Evil Corpse mountain range where the huge tomb was situated. The entrance to the huge tomb was surrounded by candle lamps. It seemed that they had been burning since ancient times. They had been burning since countless years, and still there was no sign of them being extinguished. Yishuan felt a chill by just looking at that green glow. Luxurious. It's so extravagant. Yemo said, "These candles have been ignited from the corpse oil of above Great Sage Realm zombies. Therefore, they haven't blown out even though they had been ignited thousands of years ago. The zombies are beyond the 3 realms and 5 elements, and the corpse oil in their bodies has such characteristics. Those small zombies that are outside won't dare to come close because these candles have been ignited from the corpse oil of Great Sage level zombies." Yemo explained. "Use the corpse oil to ignite the candles that guard against the corpses?" Yishuan felt numb. Yishuan nodded. Not a single zombie pursued them after they had entered the vicinity of this place. It was evident that they were afraid of this place. Yishuan also noticed that all the tyrannical auras that he had been sensing up until now had been lurking at this place since everyone was waiting for the tomb to open. Probing visions immediately appeared after the arrival of Yishuan and his team. Obviously, their attitude wasn't good towards these people who had arrived to compete with them. "Humph!" Gong Yin Jia coldly snorted and shattered the probing visions and divine senses. He occupied a place and began to wait in silence. Yishuan and the other people didn't say anything. Their map had indicated that this must be the entrance of the tomb. This was a time to recover for them. They had consumed too much real elemental energy while killing those zombies on the way. However, these things weren't enough to make Yishuan worried. These people were undoubtedly ferocious. However, they were only at the Sage Great Perfection realm, so he wasn't afraid of any of them. Several masters of matrix formations were unceasingly trying to break down the tomb's pre-installed matrix formation, which was laid down in its front. A team of dozens of people came from the sky treading on their flying lights. They were headed by a man. He stood holding a sword. He was dressed in a magnificent robe and had bright and handsome facial features. He appeared to be around 20 years old. Drops of green-colored blood slid down from the tip of his sword. It was the blood of those zombies. It was clear that he had recently killed some zombies. He looked very intimidating. The young man cast away the several men that were behind him after he landed. He then confronted those masters of matrix formation and asked, "What's wrong? Why have you still not cracked it?" "Young lord, this matrix formation is very hard to crack. However, we should be able to crack it within half day's time." One of the masters of matrix formation turned around and replied, "You people are useless. You're so slow." That man resentfully snorted and said. His imposing aura permeated the surroundings at the same time. He was an expert of Sage Accomplished Realm. His imposing aura contained a warning for the experts that were staring at him. A Sage Accomplished level expert possessed more tyrannical strength than an expert of Sage Great Perfection Realm. In fact, a Sage Accomplished level expert could take on a bunch of Sage Great Perfection level experts at once. However, there weren't only a few experts of Sage Great Perfection Realm present on the scene. Instead, groups of such experts were arriving one after another. And there were many experts of beyond Sage Great Perfection Realm among them too. Who is this arrogant man? Yishuan frowned and looked at that man who had brashly unleashed his aura. This Tang is extremely arrogant. Is he intending to deter us all? Someone resentfully said. However, his voice appeared weak. It seemed that he was afraid of Tang. It doesn't matter. There's nothing to be afraid of, even if he is at the Sage Accomplished Realm. He must know that we are large in number. He can't deter us alone. Another person seemed equally undeterred. Does he think that nobody will dare to compete with him for the sacred spring of life? And he thinks too highly of himself, if that's what he believes. Moreover, it isn't clear how many experts are eyeing him at present. He himself is a big target. It's just that he hasn't realized this, that's all. It's certainly going to be a bloody battle when the time comes. Let those top experts fight. We will take advantage of the chaos. Some people were planning to take advantage of the chaos. Various conversations were happening via divine senses. In fact, the wavelengths of these conversations had filled the sky. Those mixed noises seemed unbearable. Yi Shiwen grabbed all those floating discussions and filtered them. And he eventually found some useful information as a result. This Tang could be considered a very popular person in this operation. Many people have been planning to deal with him. However, the reason isn't he himself. Instead, it is his brother. His brother was the one who had obtained the secret that could promote one to Great Sage Realm when the Great Gas Collar had opened last time. Consequently, he had become an expert of Great Sage Realm later. And that so-called secret is this sacred spring of life. To be continued. Chapter 559. It was said that there was a spring in the depths of the tomb. It was known as Sacred Spring of Life. It could give a person an opportunity to promote himself and make the breakthrough into the Great Sage Realm. It wasn't guaranteed that it could help a person in making the breakthrough into the Great Sage Realm. However, it would be great for these sage experts even if it could only give an opportunity to do so. After all, it was very hard to make the breakthrough into Great Sage Realm. It could even be said that there was no guarantee that even one among 100 sage accomplished level experts could promote to the Great Sage Realm. Therefore, even a 100th or 1,000 chance of promoting to the Great Sage Realm was enough to make them go crazy. A person could become a top dog only after becoming a great sage. Tang had attracted a lot of attention toward himself since he possessed a map of this legendary tomb. It wasn't that nobody had ever gone inside this tomb before. However, only his brother had reached the sacred spring of life after having entered this tomb. Moreover, he had made the breakthrough into the Great Sage Realm afterwards. Therefore, many people suspected that Tang possessed a map that could lead to the sacred spring of life. One would certainly have a huge advantage in their quest for the sacred spring of life if they obtained this map. The Evil Corpse mountain range was very dangerous. And this tomb might be even more dangerous. Nobody knew what kind of dangers they might come across inside. Therefore, everyone coveted the map that they thought Tang possessed. However, nobody had dared to attack him upon taking his sage, accomplished level strength into account. Moreover, his brother was said to be waiting outside. But this didn't mean that nobody had planned to take advantage by deliberately make things chaotic. Things might be more complicated than what Yi Shiwen had imagined. However, this carefree-looking young lord, Tang obviously wasn't an idiot either. He also knew the severity of this matter. Therefore, he had already warned the sage experts that seemed ready to cause trouble. Yi Shiwen saw that these experts were just like wolves. It is true that a pack of wolves can kill a tiger. However, they need the leadership of a wolf king. And no one would be willing to act as the wolf king of this pack of wolves right now. After all, who would want to stand out among others and end up getting killed? And so, everyone seemed to be waiting for the appearance of another tiger. At this time, Yi Shiwen unintentionally glanced at Gong Yanjia. He was sitting cross-legged and was looking disdainfully at Tang Can. Soon, another tiger appeared. However, it wasn't a human. Instead, it was a sage, accomplished level demon king. He was more than 2 meters tall and wore a golden armor. He looked just like an ape with his white head and red feet. The rest of his body was also red, like fire. His entire body exuded an oppressive coercion. This is the mythical Jian ape. So, it turned out to be such a creature. Yi Ziwen's pupils contracted. This was an ominous ancient beast. It was mentioned in the legends that once this beast would appear, a big war would occur in the world. Obviously, Yi Shiwen wasn't the only one who had recognized this ominous beast. Many knowledgeable experts had also recognized it. There hadn't been many groups of Zhuyin ape in the ancient era, and they had become even rarer after the passage of thousands of years. This turned out to be the Zhuyin ape? My God, have I returned to the mythical age, or something that I am seeing such a legendary beast? Someone uttered in disbelief. It seemed that they had become scared on seeing the Zhuyin ape. This is becoming even more chaotic. The Zhuyin ape possesses outstanding strength. He also possesses the bloodline of the ancient ominous beasts. He can easily blast away an ordinary expert of his realm. Everyone had been scared by the sudden appearance of this demon beast. After all, they hadn't expected that a demon king would come here. However, they then thought that if the humans could compete and fight, then why couldn't these demon beasts? Moreover, the Great Gas Collar was the territory of these demon beasts. So, the sudden appearance of this Zhuyin ape shouldn't be that surprising. An intense and vigilant look surfaced in Tang Kan's eyes after the sudden appearance of this Zhuyin ape. This king has found out that someone had caught that a great thing like the sacred spring of life at this place. Gee, this king has been alive for several decades now. How has he never heard about it? The Zhuyin ape opened his mouth and said. The experts in the surrounding area became startled when he spoke in human tongue. He had cultivated up to the sage, accomplished realm within a short span. In fact, such speed could give the humans an urge to kill themselves. The people that were present here were basically considered elites among the humans. But even they felt the same. Everyone knew that humans didn't have very long lifespans like the demon beasts. However, the cultivation speed of humans was much faster than that of demon beasts. In fact, it was several times faster. Only the peerless Heaven's Pride experts, who were considered to be the extraordinary geniuses of their generation, could cultivate up to the sage, accomplished realm within the short span of several decades. However, this demon king's cultivation speed was equal to that of those Heaven's Pride experts. In fact, this was like cultivating up to the sage, accomplished realm within a few years if seen in the perspective of human time. Even the term skyrocketed wasn't enough to describe such insane cultivation speed. Yi Shiwen was also surprised. This Zhuyin ape must be even more outstanding than that young genius Pang Yang Bo, whom Yi Shiwen had seen back in the day. However, Yi Shiwen also felt that this beast loved to show off. He clearly saw the proud expression flashing through the corner of Zhuyin ape's mouth. Apparently, this proud expression had surfaced after the ape had heard exclaims from the experts in the surroundings. Then, Yi Shiwen saw the Zhuyin ape grinning from ear to ear and looking all self-satisfied. And he realized that he hadn't misinterpreted. The Zhuyin ape indeed was a show-off. It wasn't that Yi Shiwen hadn't seen demon beasts with wisdom before. However, the fact that they possessed wisdom didn't mean that they had emotions as well. This was the reason why many demon beasts only knew slaughtering even though they had wisdom which was as good as that of humans. However, Yi Shiwen had seen such a smug demon beast for the first time in his life. The Zhuyin ape soon let out a loud laugh. Yi Shiwen suddenly had a bad feeling. Isn't the legendary Zhuyin ape supposed to be exceptionally brutal? There is no need to worship this king so much. This king exists merely in legends. The Zhuyin ape suddenly made a frightening statement. This statement gave a thundershock to the surrounding experts who were already in a state of shock because of the sudden appearance of the Zhuyin ape. Humans always paid attention to modesty. Praising oneself was rare for humans. On the other hand, this ape was doing just that in front of so many people. He was blatantly showing off in front of such a big crowd. However, Yi Shiwen had a slightly favorable impression of this Zhuyin ape who loved to show off. After all, it was more likely for people to have a good impression of a demon beast who loved to show off as compared to an ice-cold one. The Zhuyin ape's complexion immediately changed when he saw Tang, giving him a bad look from the other side. "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome Zhuyin ape before?" The Zhuyin ape said. Suddenly, a baffled look appeared across everyone's face. This Zhuyin ape was too valiant. However, his voice hadn't even faded when another figure appeared. It was a very big silver eagle. In fact, it was bigger than the Julian ape. It was at least more than 3 meters tall. Its entire body was silver. In fact, it seemed that its big feathered wings had been dyed in silver. They were emitting rays of serene light. The eagle looked very scary. It spurred a storm of astral wind as soon as it arrived. This silver eagle king possessed the demeanor of a true demon king, unlike that Julian ape. Everyone reckoned that this was the third sage accomplished level expert to arrive at this place. Many sage accomplished level experts had arrived in Great Gas Collar this time. However, many of those sage accomplished level experts were outsiders. So, it was possible that they hadn't heard the various important rumors that were spread widely across the River Shore Star field. Consequently, it was normal if they didn't know about this tomb. The Silver Eagle King swept its ice-cold vision across everyone. But it didn't say anything. It just stood alone with a proud expression on its face. It was waiting for the tomb to open. Sorry for coming late," a lazy voice came from afar. It turned out to be a handsome man who looked to be around 20 years old. He was dressed in a spacious white robe. He came out walking leisurely from the forest. He was shouting in embarrassment. Everyone squinted. It was another sage, accomplished level expert. Fortunately, it had turned out to be a human expert this time. A lot of human experts felt relaxed because of this. 2 among the 3 sage, accomplished level experts that had arrived here before were demon beasts. This had made them worried. Killings also used to occur between humans. However, it couldn't be compared with the killings between humans and demon beasts. Things at least looked balanced now, after another human expert of sage, accomplished realm had arrived. The situation didn't look risky and unbalanced like it had a moment ago. Everyone's gaze was fixed upon Tang Can. They were waiting for his clan's masters of matrix formations to break those enchantments and barrier formations. Tang Can became somewhat depressed because of these people's stares. "Why are you staring at me?" After that, he became somewhat angry. In fact, he was about to burst vigorously. Suddenly, a loud explosion occurred, and countless matrix formations broke down. They transformed into a dreadful energy storm and swept towards outside. Those masters of matrix formations whom Tang Can had brought got blasted to death on the spot. Their internal organs had been ruptured, and blood gushed out from all the pores of their bodies. However, a huge hole had been opened in the tomb by this dreadful explosion, and endless billows of the negative energies rolled out of the tomb. But Tang Can didn't care about the death of his men. Instead, he immediately flew towards that hole. Those experts that had arrived with him immediately reacted and surrounded the entrance of the tomb. They were planning to prevent the other people from going inside or delaying them so that they could buy some time for Tang Can to go in. "You're courting death. How dare you block the path of this king?" That show-off Jian ape suddenly became angry, and a pair of iron fists slammed down from the sky. It seemed as if 2 flaming meteors had fallen from the sky. Rumble! The terrifying fist shook the space and opened cracks in it. The scene appeared very terrifying as the cracks proliferated in all directions. A few nearby experts among the experts that had blocked the entrance got blasted to death, and a huge gap opened in their formation as a result. The Julian ape transformed into a group of flames and burst into that gap. The Silver Eagle King also moved from the other side. It transformed into a silver light and flew past those experts that were standing in front of him. Those experts screamed as they got chopped into a gory mess. To be continued. Chapter 560. "Oh, this is such a hassle," the white-clothed young man shouted as he strode forward. It seemed as if a vast chunk of distance had shrunk to an inch before him as he bypassed all those experts that were guarding the tomb entrance and disappeared into the tomb in an instant. "Kill them! Rush-ins!" It wasn't known who had shouted first. However, the experts who had been getting restless shouted one after another and rushed inside. Those experts that had blocked the way didn't dare to stop them and stepped aside one after another. They were many in number. However, the opposite side had even more people. Moreover, The people who were blocking everyone's path had only intended to delay these experts. They didn't want to die here. Yi Shiwen followed Gong Yin Jia and other people and rushed in, and they entered in nearly an instant. Yi Zaiwen's team were the top players among the crowd. So, Yi Zaiwen's team soon pushed to the front and took the lead as they rushed in. Whoosh! Yi Shiwen had merely entered the tomb. He hadn't even observed the surrounding environment when he heard the shrill sound of breaking of space which came from behind him. Then, a huge yin and yang fish suddenly swept down towards him. It opened its big mouth like a sacrificial bowl in order to bite at him. You have a death wish. How could Yi Shiwen have not known that it was Old Yin who had attacked? However, he wasn't surprised. In fact, he had been vigilant towards Old Yin and Gong Yin Jia since the beginning. He hadn't relaxed for even a moment. Old Yin had attacked very suddenly. However, Yi Shiwen was prepared for this attack. Yi Shiwen made a roundabout turn and brandished his palms. Bang! A pair of flesh palms and the huge yin and yang fish collided with each other in the air, and a dreadful explosion arose from the clash of these two tremendous powers. This explosion destroyed even the atoms of the air. The sound of the explosion unceasingly reverberated in the surroundings. However, the space inside the tomb was kept intact by a kind of vigorous energy. Even the fight between two top-tier experts of Sage Realm couldn't break this space. The turbulence caused by this huge explosion hadn't scattered when Old Yin attacked again. His face carried an incomparably sinister smile as he rushed forth. Yi Shiwen, you're done for. You've entered this tomb now, and this Yin-rich place is my domain. I will smash you to death like an ant. The black-robed Old Yin carried a wild smile on his face. His scheme was profound as well as unfathomably sophisticated. The plan looked fierce. However, it was only for those people whom he considered ants. However, he also knew the weight of the matter when dealing with a powerful person like Yi Shiwen. Therefore, he didn't lose his cool and resort to attacking non-stop. Instead, he acted with patience. He had practiced the power of Yin polarity in order to enter this tomb. So, one could say that this place was his home ground. He could display his strength to several times its normal extent at this place. He had become extremely powerful in this place. He could escape even from the hands of a sage, accomplished level expert at this place. And he could easily blast away an ordinary expert of sage, great perfection realm. The Yin energy at this place was unprecedented. The negative Yin energy wasn't good for other people, and they would evade it. However, it was great nourishment for him. In fact, he even felt that his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds if he could practice at this place for a few years. And making a breakthrough into the sage, accomplished realm would just be a matter of time for him, if that was the case. He liked it here. It was his home ground. Whoever would come in here had to follow his house rules. The imposing aura of Old Yin had gotten promoted by a huge margin under the supply of Yin power at this place. Yi Shiwen had realized that Old Yin's strength had increased by a great margin ever since they had reached this Evil Corpse mountain range. In fact, it seemed that he had come back to his home after he had entered the Evil Corpse mountain range. He had been forced to put some effort in killing those demon beasts outside. However, he had been killing zombies effortlessly after he had entered the Evil Corpse mountain range. Moreover, a very big change had occurred when he had entered inside the tomb. He had absorbed a huge amount of these Yin energies, and this had made his strength reach the highest peak of the Sage Great Perfection realm. Therefore, he had decided to attack without any hesitation. Earlier, he had weighed himself and had found out that he wasn't a match for Yi Shiwen. However, he had become very confident now since he could draw support from the evil Yin energies of this tomb. It's not good. Damn it. This old fogey has attacked. Xiao Yuan was the first one to react. She didn't have a good relation with Yi Shiwen in the beginning. However, she had later realized that she didn't have an everlasting kind of enmity with him either. But she could get everlasting benefits from him if she mended things. And she would obviously have no issue with Yi Shiwen as long as he could provide her enough benefits. Yi Shiwen hadn't helped her in a direct manner. However, it couldn't be denied that Yi Zaiwen's assistants had made their journey towards the sacred spring of life much smoother. They didn't have to be worried about their lives since they had the escort of a powerful expert like Yi Shiwen. In fact, Yi Zaiwen's assistants would be extremely valuable even if they eventually failed to find the sacred spring of life. The people of this team didn't get along on the surface or in heart. After all, everyone harbored ulterior motives. However, they weren't at each other's throat either. But things wouldn't remain the same once that had happened. Moreover, Xiao Yuan had realized that Yi Shiwen didn't kill indiscriminately even though he was a very decisive killer. He didn't move into action as long as someone didn't provoke him. And such a person was far better than a hothead like Gong Yanjia. So, she would certainly choose Yi Shiwen if she had to choose among the two. However, Old Een had become extremely hostile after he had borrowed the evil Een power from this tomb. And this had dramatically changed the situation all of a sudden. This old fogey has become so powerful after drawing support from the Een power. Ding Tong was somewhat worried. She was most concerned about Yi Zaiwen's survival among all these people. After all, she could depend only upon an extremely powerful person like Yi Shiwen in a place like this tomb, which had become increasingly chaotic with time. One could die on the spot in a place like this if they weren't careful. She couldn't find out what Gu Tian, Yu Rui, and Mo Zhun were thinking when she glanced at them. Moreover, they didn't seem to be surprised by Old En's sudden attack. In fact, it seemed as if they had been feeling the gradual rise in Old En's killing intention for Yi Shiwen for a while. The crucial person in all this, Gong Yanjia, was standing on the side. He was staring at Yi Shiwen with his ice-cold vision. It didn't seem that he was planning to attack. However, his focus seemed to be firmly locked upon Yi Shiwen, and it seemed that he could get involved in this fight at any time. Yi Shiwen, today I will take your head to pay homage to my brother. Old Een stepped forward as the chilling Een wind blew against his clothes. Then, a seemingly invincible, imposing aura swept out. It seemed as if he was the only ruler in this dark tomb, a lord of death who had come from hell. He attacked in an instant, and an almost entirely black Yin and Yang diagram suddenly got formed in the air. It seemed that it would break the entire world as it swept down towards Yi Shiwen in a dreadful stance in order to crush him. Yi Shiwen felt a terrifying suppressive force that seemed to be firmly locked upon him. He secretly pondered at this moment. I hadn't expected that Old Een would become so powerful after entering the tomb. He wasn't a match for me in the beginning. In fact, he couldn't withstand even a single blow of mine. However, now he has become so powerful that his imposing aura could be compared with the dreadful, imposing aura exerted by Gong Yanjia when he goes all out. However, he wasn't planning to retreat. In fact, his face exposed a somewhat excited look. After all, Old Een had attacked with his entire strength, and he seemed almost as powerful as Gong Yanjia now. So, Yi Shiwen could get some idea about Gong Yanjia's strength by fighting with him. Consequently, he wouldn't be caught off guard when Gong Yanjia would attack. The golden divinities in Yi Zaiwen's entire body began to boil. Then, waves of divine pressure swept out in the surroundings. And the evil Een energies present in the surroundings instantly got suppressed as a result. These divinities were the purest positive yang power of the world. Naturally, the divinities and these evil Een energies were opposing forces. Therefore, a stunning collision occurred in a flash, and layers upon layers of terrifying shock waves swept out everywhere. The divinities that were boiling inside Yi Zaiwen's body seemed to be dyed in golden. It seemed that a golden god of war had arrived from the ancient times. There were no fancy moves used, only a fist swept out. This fist attack was simple. However, it contained all the essence of Yi Zaiwen's fist technique and his comprehension of fist intention. And all of that had been condensed in this fist. Crackle, crackle, Yi Zaiwen's fist intention and the Yin and Yang diagram collided in midair. It seemed that the two dreadful auras would swallow each other as they collided in the space. Bang! An extremely scary explosion sounded from the point of collision of the two forces. and the space began to shake and twist because of it. The space fluctuated like sea waves. Layers upon layers of shock waves swept out and went very far. The other teams and the scattered experts saw this scene. However, they didn't stop to see this fight. They didn't know why these two men were fighting. Moreover, finding the sacred spring of life was much more important for them at this time. And they were already far behind Tang, who was ahead of everyone. In fact, they had basically lost him. So, one could assume that they would practically lose the sacred spring of life if they didn't hurry and catch up with him. Everyone was sure that Tang can possess the map that could lead to the sacred spring of life. So, they wouldn't lose their way as long as they followed him. They would definitely find that legendary sacred spring of life if they followed him. The sage experts of the entire universe would certainly go crazy and arrive here if the news about this holy water that could increase the odds of entering the great sage realm proliferated. They had a great opportunity right before their eyes. So, how could they miss it? Therefore, nobody stayed at this place. Everyone flew away from the sight of this team's internal strife. Step, step, step. Old Ian unceasingly retreated several steps, and then stopped. Finally, he got rid of the backward push that had been exerted by Yi Zaiwen's attack. He had realized what kind of pressure his brother must have faced earlier. This slim guy didn't appear to be extremely powerful. However, he had fought with this guy for some time now. So, he had understood that this boy's strength was so immense that it could scare a person to death. In fact, an ordinary person would immediately go out flying if they bumped into him. He was able to resist Yi Shiwen because he was fortunately in an Een-rich place like this tomb. It was his home ground. So, he wasn't running out of energy as his energy was getting supplemented at this place. He wanted to stay at this place even more now because he had finally realized how ferocious Yi Shiwen was. After all, Yi Shiwen would be an enormous threat to him if he went outside. Boy, nobody can save you today. To be continued. Chapter 561. Boy, nobody can save you today. I will tear you to shreds. You'll die miserably. I will make you wail in pain until you die. Black-robed old Een roared as his expression turned even more sinister. It seemed that he would vent all the pent-up frustration in his heart. He immediately attacked. A share of evil Een energy condensed into a mountain and smashed down. It looked enormous as it pressed down vigorously. He clearly knew of Yi Zaiwen's ferocity. Therefore, he couldn't afford to let Yi Shiwen escape in this situation wherein he had the advantage. Otherwise, he would have to deal with enormous trouble in the future. He couldn't let this tiger return to the mountains. However, he hadn't anticipated the fact that Yi Shiwen wasn't planning on escaping. The evil Een power could be considered as extremely troublesome for ordinary people. In fact, an ordinary person could die on being exposed to too much evil Een power. However, Yi Shiwen was no ordinary person. He could convert this evil Een power into spirit energy by drawing support from the heavenly source mirror. The source of his power had always been spirit energy, no matter what kind of power he absorbed. Only various attributive changes would get added during the conversion. The heavenly source mirror used to thoroughly discard the various attributes which were detrimental to him. It only let the purest spirit energies enter inside Yi Zaiwen's body. Yi Shiwen wasn't in a homely kind of environment unlike black-robed old Een. This environment wouldn't suddenly increase his strength. However, it didn't mean that he would be suppressed by it like most people had imagined. Therefore, black-robed old Een was gravely mistaken if he was thinking that he could force Yi Shiwen to flee. You don't know how bad it will be for you if you're thinking about killing me. You're acting recklessly. Yi Shiwen sneered. He then strode forward, and his hands suddenly issued layers of golden light. Then his divinities concentrated on his hands, and the might of his hands greatly increased in an instant. This scene looked extremely terrifying. The evil and energy mountain was still smashing down towards Yi Zaiwen's body. However, Yi Shiwen stepped out and attacked the mountain before it could reach him. Dreadful divinities had condensed on his hands. His hands ripped apart that mountain, and transformed it into evil in energy. This energy was then absorbed by him in an instant. However, his golden face turned pale because of absorbing too much evil in power in one breath. The evil in power froze his internal organs, meridians, and bones immediately after it had entered his body. The negative polarity of this power made it extremely cold and scary. However, this happened only for an instant since he had quickly operated the heavenly source mirror. The heavenly source mirror had then transformed the evil in power into spirit energies and scattered them into his body. The Phoenix regeneration technique once again demonstrated its extreme healing power. All of his injuries healed almost in an instant. Yi Shiwen was happy that the evil in power was present in abundance at this place. It seemed that the evil in power had accumulated at this place for 1,000 or maybe even 10,000 years. The tomb had never stayed open for a long time. So, the evil in power hadn't drained out. It was entirely concentrated at this place. The amount of evil in power present at this place was countless times more than that present at the so-called sacred cultivation spots in the outside world. In fact, it was a death trap for ordinary people. They had to unceasingly use the protection of their real elemental energy in order to resist the invasion of this evil in power. However, this place was like a paradise for a person like Yi Shiwen, who could convert the evil in power into spirit energy. In fact, he experienced the feeling of being reborn every time he took a breath. This negative in energy had caused an enormous impact on his internal organs immediately after it had entered his body. This was difficult for him to completely control it even if he had practiced the tyrant body technique. He had already cultivated his physique to a great extent when it came to the tempering of muscles, bones, and flesh. So, he could now withstand the continuous bombardment of sage tools whilst being unarmed. Therefore, he was focusing on the cultivation of the interior of his body at this time. He had no choice but to operate the tyrant body technique in order to fight the negative in energy that he had inhaled. Otherwise, his entire body would have frozen to death. Moreover, this would prove to be a huge advantage as far as practicing the tyrant body technique was concerned. This place was like hell for other people, but it was like a sacred cultivation spot for Yi Shiwen. However, his case was completely different from that of the black-robed Old Een. This place had become a sacred cultivation spot for black-robed Old Een because it was compatible with his attributes. It seemed as if Yi Shiwen had seized all the luck in the world. He had forcibly transformed an unfavorable situation into a favorable one merely to temper himself. Other people couldn't even think of doing something like that. In fact, they didn't even have the perseverance to do so. Yi Shiwen had recovered almost in an instant. The sound of Phoenix was faintly emitting from his body because of the operation of the Phoenix regeneration technique. He didn't stop it for even a bit. He then stepped out. His golden figure flickered and immediately arrived in front of black-robed Old Een. Bang! Yi Shiwen brandished his fist. He had attacked with his entire strength without any hesitation. After all, they had already landed into a mortal combat. His fist transformed into a big star and slammed down from above. The boundless energy in the surroundings transformed into a hellish scene of shrieking and wailing ghosts. It seemed as if the enraged, evil energy was mimicking the scene of a ruined city which had perished under tragic circumstances. Black-robed Old Een spouted a mouthful of blood. All defense-type divine tools on his body had been destroyed by Yi Shiwen in a moment's time. However, the defenses of these very tools had also bought him a moment's time. The black-robed Old Een flew a large distance backwards by taking advantage of this moment. However, his face exposed a look of disbelief. How can you be so powerful? Black-robed Old Een still couldn't believe his eyes. He had calculated in his mind that he would catch Yi Shiwen off guard and wouldn't give him a chance to fight back. He would kill him in one move under such favorable circumstance. However, his plan didn't work. He couldn't have the slightest impact on Yi Shiwen even under such favorable circumstances, since Yi Shiwen's strength was simply incredible. Black-robed Old Een had already become enough powerful. In fact, he could already feel that he was getting closer to the threshold of the sage accomplished realm in such an rich place. It was like a natural moat that was present right before him in the past. However, it now seemed that he could step over this barrier at any time. He could tell that he had already acquired the topmost strength of Sage Great Perfection Realm. However, he had been instantly routed by an expert of late stage of Sage Realm like Yi Shiwen. It was ridiculous to the extent that even the end of the world would seem more reasonable or probable in comparison. However, he could only watch helplessly as this matter unfolded before his eyes. Is he really human? This thought appeared in the mind of black-robed old Ian. However, he didn't have the time to think about this because Yishuan didn't give him any time and rushed over once again. His speed was so fast that he broke down the sound barrier. And this issued an ear-piercing sound of space being torn. Bang! Yi Zaiwen's fist pounded upon the body of black-robed old Ian, and he immediately went out flying by the attack. His body almost broke down and blood splashed out. However, a long leg suddenly fell down from above when Yi Shiwen was thinking of obtaining the advantage of the situation to attack again. It looked like the big leg of a god that had arrived to end the world. It issued boundless energy storms wherever it went. Everyone was left dumbstruck. Gong Yanjia had been casually watching this fight a moment ago from the sidelines. But he had attacked at this time. He couldn't idly watch black-robed old Ian being killed. This was against his tyrannical disposition, and he had attacked with his entire strength. His leg technique simply went against the heaven's will. Initially, his leg was a flawed part of his body. However, now it had become the most formidable one. The big leg suddenly trampled in front of Yi Shiwen. An ice-cold predatory pressure firmly pressed upon Yi Zaiwen's body. Who would have imagined that Yi Shiwen would stay calm and composed right now? He wasn't taken aback by Gong Yanjia's sudden attack. In fact, he had already anticipated it. Gong Yanjia wouldn't have attacked if black-robed old Ian had killed Yi Shiwen in an instant. However, he obviously wouldn't hesitate to attack if the situation changed. What fairness? Did such a thing even exist? It's over. The scale of this fight has expanded again. Damn it. Xiao Yuan unexpectedly regretted this time. There was no margin for relaxation for either side after Gong Yanjia had gotten involved in the fight. Only death could be the end for one of the sides in this fight. The strength of their small team would certainly decline enormously under such a situation, and she didn't wish to see this. Moreover, they were all thinking about whose side they should stand on. It wasn't clear when Yi Shiwen and Gong Yanjia had become two pillars of this small team. They were also the two backbones of this team. However, now a fight had broken out between these two backbones. Everyone was thinking about whom they should help. Even Yurue was no exception to this. Yurue had a tacit understanding with Gong Yanjia. However, he had also seen Yi Zaiwen's terrifying strength. So, it would be foolish for him to jump into trouble for Gong Yanjia this time. This was a small team which was comprised of people who had harbored ulterior motives since the beginning. But it was on the verge of collapse at this time. Some people were optimistic about Yi Zaiwen's chances, while some were optimistic about Gong Yanjia's. Everyone had witnesses Yi Zaiwen's strength. However, they couldn't ignore Gong Yanjia's strength. Gong Yanjia alone was very difficult to deal with. However, he had now collaborated with black-robed old Ian, whose strength had increased abruptly here. Everyone felt that Yi Shiwen might have better odds of winning if it were to be one-on-one. However, he had very less odds of winning when it came to two-on-one. It seems that your leg wasn't lame after all. Let me break it and make you a cripple for real, Yi Shiwen shouted. He then turned around and shot his fist towards the big leg that was stamping down. Bang! A terrible collision occurred which issued metal-clanging sounds. Then incredible shock waves swept out and twisted the entire space. This leg had been converted into a sage tool. It had seemed extremely terrifying as it had smashed down with its entire strength. This attack was equivalent to the full-strength attack of a sage tool. However, Yi Shiwen could even block a sage tool barehanded. His body was undoubtedly very tough. The leg kept on pressing downwards upon him. However, his body didn't budge. It stood motionless just like a green pine tree while facing this dreadful attack. His legs were firmly rooted to the ground. This was a reflection of his martial arts foundation, and it was evident that his foundation had reached an extremely profound state. The terrified look grew intense in the eyes of Gong Yanjia. He was wary of Yi Shiwen since he had clashed with him for the first time. However, he hadn't expected that he wouldn't get even the slightest advantage. In fact, even his sage tool crippled leg felt like it would fall apart under the impact of this clash. The killing intention in his eyes became even more intense as he thought this. It then surged out everywhere. To be continued. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.